Hey guys, I don't know if you can hear me. Let me know in the comments. It looks like there's only 1 or 2 people here so far. I've never done live before, so I'm learning. Oh, you know what? I need to hit record on my other stuff. Hey Carol, hey KH, can y'all hear me? Awesome. Probably wait a few minutes and see if people start to show up or how many people show up. But in the meantime, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask away because I don't really have much agenda for this live other than just chatting with everybody that joins. So yeah, it's kind of ball is in y'all's court. I'm looking forward to seeing what questions y'all might have or things you might want to know or talk about, even if it's even just talking about some of the reaction videos and stuff I've done in the past, or if you have questions about me specifically. Ren, the lyrics, his musicality, basically like his message. So, reading between the lines on his lyrics, like I know a lot of times on my reactions, I don't dive too deep on the meaning behind all the lyrics. But that's because there's a million other people out there doing that already. So I feel like there's a connection in the music, honestly. I'm not a depressive type person, and I know a lot of Ren's content at some point was very much that state of music, but there's been times in my life that I've been in that state, so even if it doesn't speak to me now, it spoke to me at one point on that level. But then on the more recent stuff, you can see his progression, and he's a talented guy. That's the one thing I like about it the most is in the US here, we get stuck with just the same old boring routine of music on autoplay, and it's like I can predict what's going to play next on the radio just because it's on rotation, and Ren brings something different. So yeah. I listen to everything. I would say it depends on what mood I'm in. So lately I've been doing Amy Winehouse radio while I'm working on stuff at home. I have like Google Home throughout my house, and so basically it streams on every room. And so Amy Winehouse on Pandora has been fun. The music that kind of keeps coming in, it's a cool mix of like old throwback music, but also current music, and I like that one. Rufus Du Sol, which is more of like EDM based music. I do that one as well. And there was a period of time where I was really, really into EDM. But I don't really go to clubs and stuff these days like I used to. So more so I like kind of like the chill EDM. I listen to rap as well, but I'm not as much into current rap. My rap interest kind of fell off around like 05, 08, somewhere around then. Just because I don't really like a lot of the rap content that's coming out these days. A little bit of country here and there. It just depends. Again, it really kind of depends on what mood I'm in. Get started in what? In YouTube or what? So YouTube was kind of a happy accident. The first main video that kind of went viral for me was probably about the 5th video I put out. I don't know I can't recall if the videos prior to this video are live on my channel or not, because I turned off some of my like really, really old content. But the first video that went viral for me and still viral to this day is Blue Trees and Body Paint. Matter of fact, just last week, that video for about 3 or 4 days consecutively got like 40 or 50,000 views a day. and it's a 11-year-old video. So it's kind of crazy that video still gets traction. I think it just surpassed like 6 million views. But I have a photography background, and when I orchestrated that photo shoot, it was because an artist out of Australia had come to Houston and did a public art installation. So there was this set of trees kind of wrapped between 3 or 4 sets of crossing roads, and he painted all the trees blue. So when you drove past it, there was just this pop of blue trees. And so immediately I was like, I got to do a photo shoot there, but I want to do something different from what everybody else is doing, because everybody else was going out there and doing family portraits and high school graduation pictures and stuff. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but my mind thinks more creatively than that. And so I was like, I really want to do something different. And I had just started engaging with a bunch of models that were into body paint. And so my concept originally was to just do a one person, one model with head to toe white body paint, and then like a blue stripe or a red stripe across her eyes. But then when it came to shoot day, I had 8 people show up for the shoot. So as it was building up, I already began to realize that shoot in particular was going to be bigger than what I had planned for. So I invited 3 or 4 other photographer friends and videographers to come shoot behind the scenes. And I specifically asked them to just make sure they shot video. I wanted to get lots of B-roll. And I'd never really put together videos at that point. I was just kind of learning, right? And that video, I uploaded it and didn't really think anything of it. The next morning I woke up and it had 70,000 views. And I was like, is this normal? Like, is it normal to have 70,000 views on a video on the first day? So that video is still just kind of in the background, running on my channel. I still get a lot of views from it. I still get a lot of subscribers from it. But that was my introduction into YouTube and kind of fell into it. So from then till now, I was kind of sporadically putting out content here and there. I didn't really know what I wanted to do as far as a YouTube channel. I wasn't really focusing on it as anything serious. And then I started to take it more serious over the last like 2 or 3 years. I fell into reaction videos too because of COVID. So yeah. So thanks for asking that, Sean. By the way, Sean's my moderator. So she's here with me on the other side of the desk, just kind of helping to watch the comments. What was I doing before YouTube? So by day, I'm in between jobs right now. I know some of you already know that because I've spoke about it recently on some of my videos. But I have a marketing background. So typically my position that I hold when I'm employed is in the marketing realm. So I specialize in SEO for websites. I can build websites from scratch, manage social media content, drip campaigns for CRMs, obviously video and photography, pretty much anything and everything that has to do with digital communications, digital advertising, marketing, representing a brand or a company, and putting them to the forefront and reaching an audience. So my last position that I held was director of marketing for a mortgage company. I got into mortgage industry around 01 or 02, and I've been in it since, except for around 5 years of that time, I was with a different company completely outside of the industry called Comedy Driving. And that was a defensive driving company with an online course. So thanks to that company, actually, a lot of my video knowledge was picked up on the job there because I already had my photography background and I was hired there to do social media and SEO. And then that also kind of started to evolve into video because we created a strategy, or I created a strategy that we wanted to not only show up in the search results on Google, but we should also show up on the search results for YouTube or video search results in general. So when I was working there, I probably made around 600 or 700 videos for their YouTube channel. And then the course is also available online. So it's like one of those courses where you sit and watch videos and click through the next video, next video, next video. And I developed probably about half that course as well with video. Yeah, if you want to check out the Blue Trees video, it's pretty easy to find on my channel. If you want to see the photos from it, you can also go check out my photography. It's MMP Studios, so Melvin Maya Photography Studios.com. Actually, let me put that in the chat real quick. You can check that out. Let me glance down at these comments. Jason, what's going on, man? Glad you found me through High Ren. Jason, what's going on, man? Oh. Glad you found me through High Ren. Sorry if there's feedback. Sean's checking some of the stuff over here, and you guys might not have heard it at all. I don't even know. KH, what do those initials stand for? And then where are you guys watching from right now? Stuart, great question. So I find it interesting, like the audience that I've been developing through Ren is very diverse in age. And I think that's a unique thing for a modern artist to have a diverse age range. I've made comments already in the past of how him, especially when coupled with the big push, that a lot of their music often makes me feel like they're modern day Beatles. And I know that's a kind of a vague reference, but outside of comparing them collectively to the Beatles, I really feel like Ren is like his own artist, and it's hard to really compare him to other artists like one-on-one, because musicality is like he has no single genre, right? Like he falls into every genre of music. He does amazing covers of other music, not to mention how deep his lyrics can be, or how fun and silly his lyrics can be. So like Love Music 4, whatever that came out a week or so ago, was pretty comical and very funny. And he even says, "Oh, I wrote this as if I was, a 13-year-old," right? So, but then you have music like that he does, like High Ren or Money Game, where the content's a lot deeper and makes and more provocative in thoughts. So, who else could I compare him to though over time? This is one of the things that drives me nuts. Sometimes it's because when I'm off camera, I can think of everything I want to say, but when I'm on camera and doing reactions, often my brain freezes up and I'm just like lost in my own thoughts sometimes. So I may come back to that for you and give you a better answer, Stuart. But off the top of my head right now, I can't think of anybody specifically other than he calls to the Beatles for me. Welcome, Raid. I'm glad to see you guys in here. My thing that I was most worried about is that I was going to go live and nobody would be here because of the time conflict. Because here in the States, for me, I started this at 9 a.m. Because I was trying to accommodate my U.S. Audience, but I also really wanted to accommodate my UK audience, because you guys make up about 25% of my out of the U.S. audience. Y'all are my biggest audience aside from the U.S. And there's a 6-hour difference. So I was trying to find that middle ground of both. So thank you guys that are here for showing up. Ray, that's awesome to hear. Were you watching my other videos, on my channel for other stuff? What if you discovered Ren through me? How did you discover my channel? Curious to know. Good point, Carol. And that's one of the things I also really like about Ren is that he is independent and he's not rolled up under a label. Um, and going through his music with Trick the Fox, and I read all y'all's comments on the videos, like literally every one of them that you guys leave, and y'all are a wealth of knowledge, and it's helped me to get to know Ren way better than I ever could have on my own. So Trick the Fox I discovered because of you guys, and the idea that he would have been with Sony via Trick the Fox, um, while I think that was amazing for Ren to have had that opportunity, I also think the fact that he lost that opportunity sent him down a different path musically, and that's what's led him to the music we're hearing from him today. So it's almost like it was a blessing in disguise that he didn't get to keep that record deal with Sony, um, because it may not have led him to the path he's on now. So I love that he's independent. I love that he can do what he wants to do with his music and his videos and his creativity, and he's not held down by a big corporation. Is that the Blue Trees video? Awesome. Sean just put up a link to the Blue Trees video. Y'all can save that link. Obviously, don't click on it now because it'll take you out of the live session, but y'all can check that out later. Stuart, you're in down the coast from Brighton. That's awesome. So I don't think I've ever really mentioned on any of my Ren reactions. My grandmother is actually from England. She lived in Corby, England. I've looked it up on the map before, but I can't think of off the top of my head like how close that is to London or any of the bigger regions of England. But I grew up with a British grandmother, so I didn't know until I was a little bit older their accents were even a thing, because my dad is Cuban. My dad's originally from Havana, Cuba. So I grew up in a household with Spanish accents, British accents, and then my dad on my grandfather's side, my grandfather on my dad's side is originally from Istanbul, Turkey, and so he had an accent. So yeah, I grew up around all accents as a kid, but I definitely miss my grandma. I miss hearing her talk, and her British accent, which I didn't even realize an accent was a thing when I was a kid. Corby, North Hampshire, north of London. That is probably correct, but I don't know because I don't have. I don't know. I don't know if I'm able to do so. Again, I'm new on this live stream, and it doesn't look like I can share screens. And that was one thing I was curious about, because I was hoping I might be able to go to different websites and stuff like that and share that with you guys. But I don't see that I have the ability to do that. So Corby, Northamptonshire, you probably know better than I do. I don't really know, Stuart. Sadly, I never got to visit England with my grandmother. She when she moved to the U.S. with my grandfather, she pretty much stayed here. I think she only went back to visit once or twice, but I did always want to go visit England while she was still here with us. But unfortunately, it never happened. And to this day, I've actually never been to the UK. So hopefully one day I'll be able to get to go out there and experience that. Maybe even if I can make that happen within the next couple of years, maybe I meet up with some of you guys. Let's see. Oh, Raid, I'm just seeing that you said you found me because my channel was just recommended. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to check me out from a YouTube recommendation. Carol, where did you get to go visit in the UK? Anybody else have any questions? Landed in London, had friends pick me up and host me all across the north. That's amazing. Thanks for looking into that, Sean. Yeah, for me so far to date, probably one of my most memorable trips that I've made was about 10 to 12 years ago. Um, I was the best man in my friend's wedding in the Philippines. And his wife now, she spent the majority of her life here in the US, but was originally from the Philippines. And her father was the mayor of Tanawan, which is a small city outside of Manila. And Manila is kind of like the melting pot of the Philippines. Like Manila is like their New York in the Philippines. And so I flew into Manila, and since he was a political figure, we actually had armored car service everywhere we went, which was kind of a weird thing. So like we were in bulletproof vehicles. And then they picked us up from the airport and carted us straight over to one of his many houses. And it's like, if ever you get to visit a country and you get the red carpet experience, this was very much that. So we get to this house, and it's just this very lavish house, and get through the door immediately. They take your luggage to your room, wouldn't let you carry anything yourself, wouldn't let you serve your own glass of water. I mean, there was people there like waiting on his hand and foot, which for me was really weird because I'm not used to that. And I felt guilty because I was like, I don't need this kind of treatment. Like I can go get my own glass of water, you know? But since it was semi a vacation, I tried to look at it through that aspect and appreciate it that way. But yeah, that was an amazing experience. So we spent the first 2 or 3 days in Manila because that was where the wedding was. And then the morning after the wedding, we jumped on a smaller plane and flew out to an island, and then did like an hour ride on a bus, and then we crossed a ferry. Then we got into a very sketchy looking van, and then next thing I know, I was on this amazing beachfront hotel in Boracay, and that was probably like 3 or 4 days of the most amazing experience you could have. It was absolutely beautiful. Like everything was beautiful. For the food was great. Everything was dirt cheap. If you ever want to go on a cheap vacation, go to the Philippines. Your money will go a long way. But yeah, so that was probably like the most memorable trip I've ever done. I've done a few cruises, and I've traveled all the way from Texas to Florida countless times, and I've done Texas to California twice. And when I say that, I'm not meaning flying. I mean like I've done it as a drive. So yeah. What is the most amount of reactions you have done in one day? I watched The Day with Morgan. So KH, the most I've filmed in a single day, solo, because like with Morgan, that was the most I ever filmed in a row with a guest. And so Morgan and I, we did 19. But the most I've ever filmed personally in one day was 79. And it was actually supposed to be 80 reaction videos that I was filming. But somewhere along the line, I accidentally skipped one. So 79 videos I filmed in one day, but then I trickled those out over like the next like 2 months. And the reason I filmed so many in a single day is because at that time, my workload for my day job was very heavy, and finding the time to both film and edit and get everything released on a schedule, because I was putting out videos daily at that time. That was the best way I could figure to manage my time, was to just film 79 videos in one day and then slowly trickle those out. Right now, since I'm in between work, matter of fact, after we finish filming here today, the live, I have a meeting immediately after this. I might start producing a podcast for someone else. So we'll see how that goes. But then after that, today I have on my schedule to film 25 videos today. So for me, I can do it all day long, but I know like when I have guests, I never want to push my guests to do more than they're up for, or that they might not have the time allotted for. So yeah. Yeah, the culture shock in the Philippines was different because it was my first time traveling outside of the US, with the exception of when I was a kid. So from Houston to South Padre is like a 5 or 8 hour trip. And then when you're in South Padre, you can cross over to Mexico pretty easy. And so as a kid, we crossed over to Mexico and back in the same day. So that was the only time I went out of the US until I did my Philippines trip. So, and that was done as an adult when I went to the Philippines. Culture shock, what amazed me was like, everybody's just so kind. Like everybody in that country is super, super kind. Um, I also didn't really know much about the Philippines prior to going there. And so I was pretty surprised to find out that like 98, 99% of the country speaks English, even though it's not their first language. They speak Talonga, I think is what it's called. But they all speak English, which was kind of cool because when you're traveling in another country, language being a barrier, sometimes it's nice when you can communicate pretty easily. I also didn't know that like the Philippines is like a highly religious country, Catholic, and it was weird because like I grew up Catholic. I'm not over the top religious or anything, but they had like the Mother Mary on each mailbox, and I was like, this is wow, this is crazy. And then I went to a mall, and they don't celebrate Halloween in the Philippines, and it was October. Their mall is different as well. So like their mall is compartmentalized. So like you go to one area of the mall, and that whole section of the mall will be electronics. You go to another area of the mall, and that'll all be like home furnishings. You go to another area of the mall, and that's going to be like all your teenager stores. It was like very compartmentalized. But they were literally reading Bible verses over the intercom there, and I was like, wow, this is like, that would never fly in the US, like never. And to each their own. Again, I'm not trying to talk religion here, but it was just a unique experience that I picked up on while I was there that I would have never guessed. But yeah, I mean, like there was way more to the experience than that. I wish back then that I would have had like a GoPro. GoPros didn't exist back then, because I could have created some amazing videos from that visit. We did helmet diving, which is where you put like this giant astronaut looking helmet with a hose on it, and you go down to the bottom of the ocean bed, and then they bring, you feed the fish, and they put starfish on your face and things like that. But that was cool. And then we did island hopping, where we went to like 5 or 6 little mini islands in one day. And then we went into a cave, and then when you go into the cave and then come out the bottom, next thing you know, you're on like this beach on this little cave in the middle of the water. It was really, really amazing trip. It's Hey, Just Lee, just see that you said raid, so you sub with your other channel. Awesome, thank you. Are they like that with every guest? KH, are you meaning like the treatment that I got? I think in general they're very kind, but I think since we were being handled by like the staff of a political person, we were probably getting a little extra treatment than the average person would. But it was kind of cool because like this was before the era of Uber even, right? So we were in another country, and anytime we wanted to go somewhere, all we had to do is tell them what we wanted to do or where we wanted to go, and we had basically personal drivers. And so I don't think that would be the experience for anybody visiting. I think you would have to have found a cab or some other means of travel. But it was kind of nice that we had that option, that like, one, that we were safe in another country, and then two, that we didn't have to worry about knowing where we were going, or securing a ride. We always had a ride anywhere we wanted to go, and staff there to kind of lead us. Yeah, Carol, the religious stuff, it was crazy. It's like, again, even though I grew up Catholic, I just still wasn't ready for the fact that they were, that it was just like on every corner. It was just different from what we see here. hopefully next year will be a better year for me, and I'll get to do some traveling. Usually I take a cruise for my birthday in April, and this year, with the uncertainty of my employment at that time, I wasn't able to do it, and so no actual traveling this year for me. But fingers crossed that next year is going to be a better year, and I'll be able to do some sort of a trip next year, whether I do a cruise or maybe I actually do something abroad, because I've never explored anywhere in the UK whatsoever. I've never been to that side of the world, so maybe I change it up and do something like that. Ancient sites like Jason, you're talking about. So in the cruises I've done, most of them are going out of Galveston, which is 1 hour south of Houston, and they stick around, to Central America and like Caribbean. And so most of the excursions I've chosen to do while on the cruises so far have been more adventurous stuff like snorkeling, wave runners, and things like that. But more recently, I've been kind of wanting to do one of the ones where I go to like Cancun or somewhere around there and check out like the I don't want to call them pyramids. I don't know what they're called. The ruins, the Aztec ruins. So yeah, I do want to see some of that stuff. I want to go to Machu Picchu at some point. That would be amazing. I think seeing the actual pyramids in Egypt at some point would be cool, but I've heard it's become so commercialized that the experience isn't maybe quite what it was at one point. But I still think it would be cool to check it out at some point. Any interest in it? Okay, I found. Stonehenge would be awesome. That would be amazing. And then malls in the U.S. there were guns behind the counter. Yeah, like I think it depends on what state you're in regards to guns. I'm in Texas, so there's guns in all sorts of stores here. You can even buy a gun at Walmart, but I'm not a big gun person myself. But I could see how that might seem weird if you're from a country that maybe guns are not as prevalent. KH, when you say you photograph, or is it video too? What are you referring to? I saw your question too. And then Sean, my moderator, was asking like what kind of equipment do I use to shoot my content. So I'll go into the equipment in a minute. So when I used to shoot before, I was primarily doing photography, and when photography began to take when they started changing the cameras to start accommodating video. So for instance, like a DSLR camera, that used to be at one point, those didn't take video. They only did photos. But once they crossed that market and they started doing video, I started to dabble in video a little bit. And then when GoPro first hit the market, the GoPro Hero 1, oddly enough, I got that camera for like $80. Now a GoPro these days goes for like $500. But I just bought a GoPro for fun to kind of like have a different format and start learning video. And when I first got into video, I was like using Windows Media Maker or something like that. And it was super limiting what you could do. And then it was very difficult what you could do. But when I started working for Comedy Driving, that's when I started exploring video more. And at that time I was doing Final Cut with Apple. And then I progressed from Final Cut over to Adobe Premiere. So answer to your question though is, yeah, photography. I've always taken pictures. Like I've always taken pictures. My dad got me my first camera when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and it was film. And I didn't understand the concept of like you could only take like 24, 36 pictures because I was a kid. And so I snapped off a whole lot of pictures at once. He's like, okay, that's cool, but next time take them slower. And then when I got into high school, I took photography for all 4 years and learned everything I could about photography with enlargers, the darkroom, and all that. And then after high school, I wasn't really shooting much. And then digital cameras came on the scene. And so I bought my first digital camera, and that was when I was in my early 20s, I would say. And I went out a lot more nightlife wise. And so I took my camera everywhere. That was before we had cameras in our phones, right? And so I would take pictures of everything we did, everywhere we went, friends, traveling, you name it. I was taking pictures of it. And then around 07 or 09, somewhere around there, is when I got my first DSLR, and I started like actually taking photography a little bit more serious. And initially I was kind of just taking scenic pictures and just pictures out and about, but trying to perfect it and get good at it. And then a friend of mine worked at Hooters here, and she was like, hey, I want to try out for the Hooters calendar, but I need to get some pictures done. You can do that, right? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. Never done like pictures like that before. And so ordered a light kit off of Amazon and basically taught myself how to use it in 24 hours and did those photos for her. And next thing I knew, like all her friends were asking me to do photos, and it just kind of, I fell into that, you know, like I was just doing photo shoots weekly, and then it became almost daily. And then people started giving me money to do photo shoots. And then they started asking me to shoot weddings and school pictures and all these things. And I was like, I just want to take pictures because I like it. But sure, I'll take your money if you want me to. So I fell into photography. But like I was saying, is as cameras begin to change and I had the ability to start learning video, I started to transition my interest into video as well. And so I would say these days I probably do more video than photography. And my photography varies. Like if you go look at my MMP Studios website, that's primarily photo shoots with like models and things like that. But if you go to my personal Instagram, which is just at Melvin Maya, my personal Instagram is mostly all of downtown Houston, because I live in downtown Houston. So when I'm walking around and going places, I'm just always snapping off photos like nonstop. So yeah, let me check the chat though, because I think I've gotten a little off topic. Don't spend too much time in Stonehenge. Avebury is more interesting. Awesome. Florida. I love Florida. So with my dad being from Cuba, his entry point to the U.S. obviously was Florida. And so a lot of his side of the family still lives all throughout Florida. And so for my childhood vacations, we always did about 3 weeks in Florida. And so we would drive from Houston to Florida, and we'd start down the west side of Florida till we got all the way down to Miami. And then we'd go up the east side, and then we'd come back to Houston. So if there was a state that I've visited more than anywhere outside of Texas, it would be Florida. I've probably been to just about every major city in Florida. And I love Florida. I miss it. I think the last time I was there was about 3 years ago. It was like the first trip I had after things started to open up after COVID. Let's see. It's the corner of the world. Carol, where are you from? So do you need an expensive DSLR to take great pictures? I think the answer to that these days is no. So depending on what you're wanting to do as far as taking pictures, there's a lot of different options. So like when I was saying my Instagram page, my personal one, 99% of those pictures were all taken with my phone. Like I have a Google Pixel 7 Pro. Now, obviously that's a little bit higher tier phone, but it's a phone nonetheless. And most of those pictures are taken with a phone. Most of the stuff I do with people when it comes to studio shoots and things like that, a lot of my earlier content was shot with a Canon 70D. At that time, that camera was probably about an $800 camera. And I'm not saying that's cheap, but when you compare it to, at that time, the camera that the professionals were using was the Canon 5D Mark III, and that camera was about $3,500 just for the body, and probably about another $2,000 to $3,000 for the lens. So when I had an $800 camera with a standard lens, it's on the lower end, but cameras in general have gotten cheaper. So actually this camera back here, let me grab it. This is one of my favorite cameras that I use for photo and video, and this is a Canon M50. This is not the standard lens, but you can get a Canon M50 these days for about $450 or $500, give or take. It shoots 4K video, but photos, you can take excellent photos with it, and it's a great entry-level camera. It's a mirrorless instead of a DSLR. DSLR is kind of phasing out. DSLR, the difference is originally SLRs mean single lens reflex, and that means like when you're looking through the lens, there's actually a mirror there, and when you snap the photo, the lens lifts up, exposes the photo, and goes back down, right, or the image sensor. With mirrorless, they've removed that mirror. That's where the name comes from. But in doing so, it's allowed them to make the cameras more compact and the image sensor bigger. And the bigger the image sensor is, then the higher quality you can get on photo and video. So the bodies can continually get smaller. The image sensors can get bigger. So yeah, I don't think you have to have super expensive equipment. I would say get what's in your price range, figure out what you can afford, and just learn the basics of how to use the camera, and you should be good to go. Rolling back to a question earlier that Sean had asked me, my moderator, what equipment do I use? My equipment I use it's a broad question because it depends on what I'm doing. So my podcast setup here, that there's photos of it in my community tab if y'all want to see like what this whole room looks like. But I have 4 Canon A6400s. So each of my each of myself and my guest, if I have 3 guests, they have a Sony. Did I say Canon A6400? A Sony A6400 for that. And the only reason I went Sony for these is because Canons, when they're doing video, Canons have a hard stop at 29 minutes. And Sony's, you can record endlessly. And so I didn't ever want to be filming a video like a podcast that's like an hour long and have to tell everybody, hey, hang on, let me pause the cameras and start them up again, because that would kind of be unprofessional. And then it makes people lose their track of thought. So I was kind of forced to go down the route of Sony's. But this is kind of like my go-to camera quite often. When I do road trips, if I'm going places, I'll usually have my M50 because it's compact. I also use, this is one of my newer cameras, new-ish, like last year or two. This is a Canon RP. And this is a little bit more of a professional level than the M50. If I'm doing photo shoots these days, this is the camera that I'm using is the RP. And then this is just a prime lens. And then, yeah, so like I also have another YouTube channel called Ghost Texas. And Ghost Texas is where we do paranormal investigations. And so when it comes to equipment for Ghost Texas, depending on the size of the place we're investigating at any given time, there's usually 30 to maybe 40 cameras rolling simultaneously through there. And that's a mix of GoPros and DJIs and Sonys and Canons and what are the motion sensor ones? The ones that hunters use. I can't even. But it's very camcorders as well. It's a lot of different equipment. Oh, I didn't see Lee left, so my KH, yes, mirrorless, like no mirror. So when you look inside of this camera, there's not a mirror in there. It's just the image sensor. When you're using a DSLR, which is a digital single lens reflex, there would be a mirror here instead. DSLRs are basically being phased out. They still are great cameras, and if you were to go that route, you could get a lot of great use out of a DSLR. It's just that the technology has advanced so much and the prices come down that if you had the choice of getting a DSLR and a mirrorless and they were the same price, I would go with the mirrorless because it's going to be more advanced and it's more compact. Okay, HO, so you have a Canon too. What Canon are you shooting with? Composition is key to a good photo. Absolutely agree, Carol. That's something. When I started taking photography more serious, if I was ever in a group setting and taking photos, and I see everybody taking a picture of the same thing, sometimes I might jump on that bandwagon and take a picture too. But I wanted to take my picture in a different manner, and so that if you lined up my photo next to 3 or 4 other people, and we all took a photo of the exact same thing, I'd want mine to stand out in some way, shape, or form, whether that means like the angle I took it at, the exposure I took it at, the perspective, anything I can do to make mine stand out to look different has always kind of been my objective with photography. So when I was shooting more actively with models, I would end up repeat shooting with several people because they would work with me and they'd also work with other photographers. And we would just get great results. And so I'd often find that they would come back to me repeatedly versus some other people, not because they didn't get good photos from the other people, but I just look at things differently when I'm behind a camera. And so we were just able to create things that were more unique, in my opinion. And then also just the environment, the shooting environment I have has always been very fun and upbeat and casual. So it's not, if I have a certain shot in mind that I want to accomplish ahead of the shoot, I've already done all the homework to know what I need to do to accomplish that photo so that the model's not sitting there stressed out waiting for you to snap a photo, one photo every 15 minutes because you're trying to figure everything out. I think their experience should be enjoyable because you want good photos. And if the experience is not enjoyable, it's going to begin to show in their face. It's going to begin to show in their body language, and that just doesn't work well. So yeah, I think knowing what you're going to shoot is important. If you got it a few years ago, KH, it's probably still a perfectly good camera. I have off camera over there my 70D. I have it set up. I have 3 70Ds, and they work great. They work fantastic. A lot of the content that I've shot for Ghost Texas is with my 70Ds because when I do Ghost Texas, it's with the collaboration of myself and a handful of friends, and most of them don't have a photo and video background. And so if I'm putting my camera in the hands of other people who are inexperienced or maybe just not as versed with cameras, I'm going to give them my older equipment versus my newer equipment. Just because if something were to go wrong, I'd feel a little bit less upset if something happened to an older piece of equipment. So that being said, the 70Ds get used a lot, and we are still able to create great content using those cameras. Top-down views. Are you meaning like overhead shots? In what manner? Like that, or like taking pictures of people?
Buildings.
Oh, buildings. Like with drones? Yeah, so I have a handful of drones too. Drones are fun. The newest drone I got is much easier to use than the previous two. My previous two, I have a Mavic Pro and a Mavic Air 2, and you have to attach a phone or an iPad, and then you have to do all this syncing and all this stuff. And by the time you're finally getting to put your drone up in the air, it's been 10 or 15 minutes. And then you get a glare back on the screen. And they're fun to more like as a toy. But then recently I got the Mavic Mini 3, and it has a screen built into the control. All I have to do is power both of them on and I can go fly. And so that's made a huge difference in how much I use a drone these days. And so I want to do more with my drone being in downtown. I want to, so they've started putting in all these art installations all over Houston in downtown, where they're painting murals on the buildings like 10 and 15 and 20 stories tall with these murals. And so one of my plans is to start creating content using my drones, going around and capturing all of that content. So it's just been so hot here. Like a day or two ago, it was like 105 degrees. And then I just saw a news report that they're expecting, I don't know if it's this weekend or Monday or something coming up, it's going to be 110. So it's been insanely hot. So I've been avoiding going outside unless I have to. Yeah, the technology they have in the drones is amazing. The fact that they can have these gimbals on there and you can be flying around 20, 30 miles an hour and the video stays completely level and there's no vibration. It's crazy. So do I have anybody viewing right now from the UK? I know Stuart was over there, right? Anybody else? Yeah, KH, it's probably a DJI if it's an app on his phone. The DJI is the most common one. It's probably, sorry, I keep getting up. I wasn't even, this is what my new one looks like. So the controls got the screen built in instead of having to use the phone. And then the drone itself that's the other thing I like about this one, is it's super tiny. Like I can literally put this in my pocket. But yeah, this is fun. I'm looking forward to using it more. Does it look sort of like this one, Kay? Wow, I'm just realizing it's almost been an hour already. It doesn't even feel like it. I was worried I was going to bore you guys. Hopefully I'm not. Is there anybody new in here that's watching that hasn't commented yet? Or looks like there's about 5 people online. I have another binge session coming up today, by the way. So if you guys want to see another binge session, that will be starting at 12 o'clock my time. My friend Craig Bush came back for a second round. He previously did a podcast episode with me and some Harry Mack reactions probably about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. And so I introduced him to Ren. So yeah, if you guys want to see some Ren and Big Push, and then we closed it out with some more Harry Mack, I believe. So it's about 6 or 8 videos that will be going live today. So Stuart, I got a question for you. In the beginning, when I first started getting to know about Ren, I referred to him as British, and then a lot of people jumped all over me in the comments and were like, he's Wales, he's from Wales, so he's Welsh. And so I was like, okay, so I started saying Welsh, and then on one of my recent videos, I think it was a chinchilla one, I was like, yeah, chinchilla is British and Ren is Welsh. And then everybody blew up in the comments is like, Wales is part of Britain, so he's British too. And so I was like, okay, well, which one is it? Because you guys got mad when I said he was British, and now you're mad that I'm saying he's Welsh. So I don't know what I should be saying. So Stuart, if you can shed some light on that, it would be helpful. Outside of Ren and the Big Push, what other music do you guys like or should I react to? I've been slowly adding different stuff and trying different stuff, but I don't know if they aren't showing up for you guys or if people just don't have an interest, but I've been trying to diversify like other artists. So if there's other artists I should check out, let me know. Welsh, British. Okay, so then I was pretty accurate. Yeah, like it's funny because I like the things that trigger comments sometimes on the videos are things that I would never in a million years think like, oh, that's going to trigger a bunch of backlash, you know, or a bunch of people in the comments that are upset. And then I have to even try to go back and watch the video and see what I said because like, I film them so rapidly that sometimes I don't remember everything that was discussed in a video. So he's Welsh and British. I watched one of his videos. I think it was a short recently where he was speaking Welsh, and man, that's a unique language. Like it's a language I wasn't really aware of, to be honest, until I started to discover Ren. Kay, are you asking which ones am I releasing today, or which ones am I filming after I get off of here today? I've been doing some chinchilla. The issue I'm running into with chinchilla is I think I've done 5 or 6 from her so far, maybe 7, and 3 of them have been blocked for copyright. So it's frustrating sometimes to spend the time to like film content and then spend the time to edit it all and to make the thumbnails and the description and get it all uploaded to YouTube. And then as soon as it's done officially uploading, it's like content block, copyright claim, you know? So I don't know what the deal is. I think it's mostly the chinchilla stuff that was done under her label that's getting that claim, not the stuff that she's been doing independently. But yeah, I want to react to more of her. Or as I was saying, I've reacted to a lot of the ones that have been requested to react to a chinchilla, but they just keep getting blocked. Another artist I'm running into with that is Aurora, which is a Norwegian artist. I have her entire music library on my spreadsheet, and I was trying to click on the links the other day to start doing reactions, and all the links were no longer active. All of them are blocked. So I can't even watch the videos here in the US, let alone do reactions to them. So it's weird how the regional stuff happens sometimes. Looks like we got some new people in the room. If you want to say hello in the comments. Yeah, I have a VPN, and I can use it. My only issue is even if I use a VPN and I can watch it and create the content, it's still likely going to get blocked regionally because of the same issues. Sean asked a good question. Who do you guys think has a better music scene right now, the US or the UK? I'd love to see how you guys respond on that one. I'm kind of split right now because of everything I've been discovering personally through Ren and the Big Push. A lot of music I've been listening to has been that. But it's also led me to discover more music from the UK. So I just did a reaction a couple days ago to an artist named Earl. And it's kind of like in that realm of Amy Winehouse. But I don't know anything about her, really. I don't know where she's from. And I don't know anything about her background whatsoever. But if you like Amy Winehouse, you'd probably like that song. And I just did that reaction a couple days ago, and I think it's only got like 20 views on it. So if you guys missed that one, you should check it out. I got a question for you guys. If y'all want to tell me in the comments, approximately how long have you been subscribed to my channel or watching my content? And I have a follow-up question to that. What other reaction channels do you guys watch? I've had a handful of people compare me to Black Pegasus, which I enjoy his content as well, but I generally try not to watch it just because I don't want to watch him react to something that I'm already planning to react to myself. So I won't watch his videos until after I've already done a reaction if it's the same content that I'm doing reactions to. Awesome. 4 or 5 months and this month. Well, I appreciate y'all subscribing and also showing up today to check out the live stream. Well, I'm glad to hear I'm different. I try to change things up, and then I also try to keep expanding on the library. I know when I have guests that it can be quite repetitive, at least the first 2 or 3 songs, because I generally always will do High Ren, and then I Shot the Sheriff, and then something with Ren and Sam, and that one might change from time to time which one I do with Ren and Sam. But the method of that for me is to introduce my guests to see his range. But then the rest of the playlist from that point forward, I usually try to cater that playlist to the types of music they like, right? So if it's somebody who leans more into rap, then from the 3rd or 4th song onward is probably going to be more rap music from Ren. If they like more of the reggae type genre, then I'll continue down that route. If they like the performance art type stuff like High Ren, then we'll end up doing Screech, Jenny, and Violet's Tell, or maybe Money Game. So I know that can kind of get repetitive for you guys as viewers, but I try to figure out how much time I have with my guest and then give them the best experience they can have while introducing them to those artists. I love Charismatic Voice. I like her take on videos because she has a music background and she's a voice coach and a music teacher. And then you can tell just watching her expressions in her face, like how much she connects to the music on a different level than somebody like me, because she hangs on like every note vocally as they're singing, but then she also breaks down sometimes the message as well. I generally and just kind of more vibing to the music, and then we'll have my thoughts on maybe what the song might be about or my interpretation of the song. And that's one thing that's kind of intriguing about Ren, is because his music often does have more of a message compared to if I react to other artists. Sometimes there's less to talk about because there's nothing really special to try to break down with their music. And I think that's why so many reactors enjoy reacting to Ren. Yeah, same thing with me. Like with Ren, like there's every time I'm watching High Ren, there's certain parts of the song that it doesn't matter how many times I hear it, I still, the hair on my arms will raise on certain parts of it. When the song ends at the end and he starts to go into the spoken word, it always happens then. When he goes from the about 7 or 8 minute mark to where he flips out of the 2 different angel and devil versions of him to that 3rd perspective, and then he comes back and he's calm, and then he's like real calmly singing High Ren I've Learned. That's another moment where it's just kind of, I don't know, it doesn't matter how many times I hear that moment in the song, it's still like an experience every single time. One of my worries as a creator is that I'm getting really, really close to closing in on most all of Ren's content, and the big push. I probably collectively have maybe like 40 left from them that I haven't reacted to. And I know 40 might seem like a big number, but when you consider I'm putting out about 120 videos a month right now, I'm worried about burning through those 40 too quickly and losing my audience. So that's why I'm always kind of curious to know what other music and what other things you guys are interested in seeing me react to, because eventually I will run out of that catalog of music. And then, of course, when I bring guests on, they'll be able to react to it. But unless they're releasing new music on the regular, which we know the Big Push is no longer formed as a band, so that music will be done. I know Ren's about to drop a new album, so that'll be good. But I'm always worried about running out of Ren content. Awesome. I appreciate that, Kay. I think this album, from my understanding, is going to be all rap on this album, and he's already been working on another album that's going to go back to more of like a vocalist album, more of a rock style album. So I'm looking forward to that one too. Yeah, the other day I put the Big Push on my Pandora, and I was real careful to make sure that if a song came on, I didn't hear to skip it. But there was one that they did that was a different cover of I Shot the Sheriff. And so even though I've already heard them do a cover of I Shot the Sheriff, this was a different one. So even if they are performing the same music repeatedly, Ren or the Big Push, every time it's a different experience. And especially if you're kind of living through the eyes of the people there live when he's busking, that also changes the experience of how the crowd is receiving the music. That's one of my favorite things too. So like, since I Shot the Sheriff repeatedly, I'm always looking at different areas of the crowd now and seeing what I can spot different in the crowd, because I've heard the video so many times that I'm just looking at every single individual in the crowd now and seeing what things I can pick up there. Yeah, I don't think Ren's ever going to stop creating music, and I hope he continues to grow as an artist, because I've said it a handful of times, like when I'm doing reactions to Trick the Fox, when you see how much he's progressed from Trick the Fox to what he's doing now, it's like he went light years in a short time. And so now with his audience continuing to grow and he's getting more and more exposure. I hope he continues to grow as well and just keep putting out amazing content. Is there anything else you guys have questions on? We're on an hour right now, and I'll stay on here as long as anybody wants me to stick around and keep going live. But I also don't want to just ramble on incessantly. If you guys, so if you have questions, it helps me to have things to talk about. So new projects I have coming up. I have a kind of cool concept that I've been working on behind the scenes for a little while now. I haven't spoken about it on YouTube yet because I'm always fearful of people trying to jump on one of my ideas and steal it right out from under me. But I'll go ahead and mention it here. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Money Game 3 for sure. But yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead and mention it, Sean. So I've noticed the difference in views that I get when I have a guest, right? And one of my biggest obstacles when trying to get people to come in and be a guest is coordinating time with other people, and then also feel like I don't ever want to feel like I'm burdening my friends and family to come join me here to film. They always end up enjoying it, while they're here. But I also don't ever want people to feel like obligated to come here and film with me because I've asked them 2 or 3 times, right? So my thought process was like, how can I get past this? How can I get in front of other people? How can I get more guests? And so if you're familiar with Harry Mack, when Harry Mack first got started, he was doing guerrilla bars out on the streets, right? And then COVID came around and forced everybody indoors, and that's when he started doing Omegle. And so I had at one point thought like, oh, it'd be cool to do Omegle, but then I was like, it's kind of a weird format to try to do reaction videos with strangers over Omegle, but maybe I can go the route of what he does with Gorilla Bars. And so then I started constructively working through my head, how could I make that happen, right? And since I live in the center of downtown Houston, there's lots of like large park spaces and public areas around here that always have tons of people. So I was like, how can I create something where I could set up a public filming area without breaking any rules, because you have to have permits and all this stuff, or being on private property and what have you. So what I ended up doing is I created a mobile cart. And my cart is a replica of all the equipment I have right here that I'm filming with, but it's on wheels. And so I can literally take it and roll it around downtown, go set up anywhere, and start having strangers come over and film with me. So I've been waiting on these signs that were going to go on the exterior of it to show up, and I finally got those a few days ago and put those on my cart. And I'm hoping maybe like within the next week or two to start doing a test run with it. I still have to work out a few things. My biggest concern is streaming the music from YouTube on my computer, because I'm going to have to rely on my cell phone for my Wi-Fi. Because I tried doing it where I download the music and then play the music on my computer from a downloaded file. But then when I try to simultaneously screen record while doing a video player, it's too strenuous on my computer and it can't handle it. So I'm stuck with having to stream the music just like I do when I do my own reactions, but I'm going to have to rely on the cell phone. So I'm hoping that won't pose any issues. But yeah, so it's going to be called Guerrilla Reactions. So y'all are the first ones hearing about this on YouTube. A handful of my friends know about it, but I'm hoping to do that soon, and that will allow me to have guests more regularly, and it'll allow me to share Ren and Harry Mack and these artists that I really enjoy doing reactions to with people on a regular basis. I might be able to go out like on a Saturday and film with 50 different people in one day, over a span of a few hours. But I don't know for sure yet how that's all going to pan out. Musical version of Thoria. Never hear of One Gal. Sounds great. Cool. Yeah, I've not really gotten into Twitch yet myself. It seems to be that most Twitch content, not all of it, but a lot of it is gaming. And I'm not real big into watching gaming. Like, I'll sit around if I'm hanging out at my brother's house with my nephews and watch them game. But I've not really been into watching gaming on streaming. But I also don't really watch competitive sports. And I think if you enjoy watching competitive sports on TV, then you will also typically like to watch gaming, because it's kind of the same concept. It's just a digital version of a sport, basically. Even if it's not a sports related game, it's still that same concept of watching somebody else compete. I didn't realize that Rin was on Twitch, so that's interesting. I might have to find that and check it out. I'm hoping that one day I'll get to do an interview with Rin, kind of like what Black Pegasus did. But I've yet to reach out to his team, because I don't know if I'm a big enough creator at this point to extend that invitation to him to have him on and film an interview or not. But it is something that I've considered or would like to do at some point. So we'll see if I get there or not. Cool. I'll look for those lives. I'll have to check out Twitch for sure. I think with my Amazon Prime account, I get like a certain amount of Twitch subscriptions for free or something. Oh, so he looks for reactors while on Twitch and reacts to them reacting to him. Hey, if you guys are watching him on there, tell him about my channel. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate you being here. Have a great one. Have a great weekend. I see there's 8 people here now. For the most part, it's been 2 or 3 people and maybe 4 people in the comments. So if you're new here, feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. Feel free to ask me anything as well, because it's giving me more to talk about when you guys ask questions. Awesome, Kay. Thank you for mentioning me before. I appreciate that. I always wonder if Ren's seen any of my content. I know Romaine has, because reactions I've done to Romaine, he's actually commented on the videos, which is really cool. He's the only one so far that I've ever done a reaction to that left a comment back on the video. So that was kind of cool. The first time I saw that he had commented, I wasn't expecting it at all. Anybody else that's new to join the live stream here have any questions? Or if Kay or Stuart, if y'all have any other questions? I make sure I didn't miss anything in the comment feed here. Swan Song. I don't know. Is that a Ren song? Let me see real quick if I have. It doesn't. I don't think I have. Oh, actually, I have. No, I'm lying. I have not. I've not done it yet. It's from the Big Push. It's on my list. So remaining from the Big Push, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have about 13 tracks left to react to on the Big Push, and Swan Song is one of them. Yeah.
Or however.
Sorry, I was talking off camera for a second. You did. I muted it. I'm back though. My apologies. Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that one out. I think a handful of people have asked about Swan Song. That's why I wasn't sure if I had reacted to it yet or not, because I begin to lose track in my mind sometimes of what I have or have not done, because sometimes I'll have already recorded something but not released it yet, or I've just seen it come up a number of times as being requested. Oh wow, so it's the first one they ever did. Cool. Definitely gonna have to check it out. It's not on my list today, but I can get it on my list this week, hopefully. My apologies, guys. I have to make a quick text to somebody. I mentioned that I have a meeting after this, and I need to give them the details on parking and everything here. So bear with me for 1 second here. Sorry to have to keep you guys holding while I do this real quick. I'm almost done, guys. I apologize. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the person I'm meeting with today is looking to start their own podcast, but they just want to simply be the personality of their podcast, but they don't want to have to deal with the equipment, the filming, and audio, and then cutting it up and releasing it. And I don't know if they're looking to do a video podcast or strictly an audio podcast, but they're supposed to be coming by here in a couple hours to discuss that further. So we'll see if that turns into an opportunity for me or not, to be on the production side of that for them. But yeah, so that's why I had to skip out for a second there and make sure that they have directions to get here. We're up to 9 people here. We're only hearing from two or three people consistently. What are some of you guys? You have any questions for me? Anything you want to know? Anything you want to ask? Would love to hear from you. Thank you, Kay. I appreciate it. It's not. I've never really done something on that level for someone else. I'm comfortable doing it. I know what I'm doing. But I'm used to working on my projects when it comes to this kind of stuff. So if any of you are just now joining, I've discussed a lot of stuff so far, travels, and a lot of the discussion's been around Ren and the big push. Some of the discussion has been around cameras and different types of equipment I use. But yeah, if you're here and you have questions for me, I encourage you to go ask away. I'm happy to answer just about anything you guys ask of me. But it also allows me to have more things to discuss with you if you can prompt some questions for me. Which of my guests surprised me the most? Let me think about that for a minute. I wasn't as I know right now when it comes to guests, it seems to be my viewers have really enjoyed the session I did with Morgan. But for me, it wasn't really as much of a surprise because I know Morgan really well, and she's also part of my Ghost Texas YouTube channel. And she's done reaction videos with me in the past, and so she's familiar with the format and she does well. Maybe my friend Dwight Morris, who those are labeled BYOB, Build Your Own Brain. I knew he would like Harry Mack when we did Harry Mack reactions initially. But when he came back again as a guest with Rochelle Houston, and they were reacting to Ren, I wasn't sure how they were going to perceive it, right? Because the message that Dwight's passing through BYOB, Build Your Own Brain, is a very positive, uplifting message, and to restructure the way you think and spread positivity. So I thought he would consume Ren and get it, of course. But even off camera, the conversations we had after we did Hi Ren initially, it seemed to really resonate with him a lot, and he really enjoyed it. So that was really cool. And then they came back a second time. Well, him and Rochelle came back a third time, but they brought a guest because we were doing a podcast episode, and his guest really enjoyed Ren as well. So I think that's what's cool is getting to see people experience it for the first time, especially if it's not something that they might not typically find on their own or have an interest in, but then they listen to it and really enjoy it. Sean's asking if I'm liking YouTube Live so far. I am. I really like, so I wasn't necessarily nervous about doing live today. I just didn't know what to expect. And I think the thing I was most fearful of is that I would, show up to do YouTube Live and then nobody would show up to watch it. So I'm glad to have had you guys here so far that have been joining and asking questions and engaging, because just as much as you guys are watching my content and you're getting to know me, it's YouTube Live allows me to get to know you guys, because I get to know y'all somewhat through the comments, but even though I'm not getting to speak back and forth with you guys, I'm responding verbally to y'all's comments right now. It's a different kind of engagement than if you were to leave a comment and I was to comment back on the comment. The other thing with YouTube Live that's helpful is the number of comments I'm getting on my videos these days. Like I said, I read literally every single comment, but I get so many comments that it's almost impossible for me to respond to them. And so part of me feels guilty that I can't respond to all the comments, but at least here on live, I can respond to you guys in the moment. Thank you, Sean. Absolutely, Stuart. That was my worry was having no one to talk to. I was worried that nobody would be here, and if that would have been the case, I'm like, how long do I stay on live and wait for people to show up if nobody's here when I start? But I'm glad that a few of y'all were here right from the start, so I really appreciate that. Hiron quote. Are you going to give us a quote, Stuart, or are you asking for one? Let's see. Yeah, Kay, it's interesting how much Rin can open your eyes with one song and change you. Like what I think is interesting about High Rin is that it's one song, one performance, and people's emotions, how much they change in just that one song. So just as much as you guys are watching my guests and the way they react, and you've probably picked up on it, is you'll see me peer off across the room, and it's because typically my guests are sitting directly across from me there or there. And so I'm constantly glancing over to see their reaction live in the moment of certain parts of the song when I know something's about to change, because I like to see how they react. And quite often people will kind of start off kind of like, whoa, what's with this pig mask? And then they might be kind of like smiling and laughing a little bit. And then when he starts going back and forth between the two different egos, then there's sometimes a little bit of confusion on their face, or they immediately get what's going on, and then they're just kind of perplexed by it. And then as it progresses more and more, the smiles kind of fade away and the seriousness starts to set in. And then by the end of it, it's more of like an emotional experience and the seriousness settles down. So like I love like seeing people go through that journey with High Ren. That's why I always start with that track. And then immediately flipping it on them and completely changing it and going into I Shot the Sheriff with the reggae. I love to see the change in expression. So that's why I have that kind of like that formula of the way I release those, or I react to those with guests. Absolutely, Kay. It is. I love it. And the other thing for me, a lot of the times when I'm trying to see their expression live in the moment, is because the pace that I'm putting out content right now, I very rarely get the chance to watch any of my videos back again. So from the time of filming to uploading to YouTube, the only part that I watch is the intro and the outro so that I can get all of that aligned properly and edited. But everything in between, I don't watch it back. Almost never, just because I don't have the time to watch every single video back again. So I have to see their expression and their reaction live in the moment. Otherwise, I won't get to see it. I'm glad you're enjoying the format. One of the other things I think that's a little different from mine and other reactors and was important to me that like I wanted to make sure I got right from the get-go was the split screen. Um, when I watch other reaction channels, because I've watched a ton of reaction content before I started putting out my own reaction content, is I'm not real keen on the video just kind of floating over top of the reactors or just like kind of being in the middle down here or something like that. Um, as important as it is to see myself or my guests reacting, I think it's equally important to see the video we're reacting to. So when the video is really small, um, I don't know, I just don't like that format. So that was it took me a while to figure it out how to do it in Premiere. But yeah, like the way I changed I separate my screen was really important to me that I did it that way. So, Kay, you've introduced your sister to the music as well. So yeah, it's a fun experience, right? Like even if I introduce the music sometimes to friends and family off camera that aren't interested in reacting, I still always enjoy to see how they react. Like I've shown my sisters Harry Mack, and they were just like blown away. And I'm the youngest of four, so um, my sisters were just completely blown away with Harry Mack, and it's fun to watch them experience that. And even my parents watch all my content, which I think is hilarious. My dad will be 83 in November. My mom just turned 76 about a week ago, and my dad was my first. Well, both my parents were my first podcast guests. And I had considered doing reaction videos with my parents to Harry Mack and Ren and everything. But in general, when I listen to music with my parents, my dad often says he can't follow rap because it's too fast. And so I was like, oh, there's no way he'll be able to do Harry Mack. So I never invited him to do a reaction. Now I find out that they watch every one of them and love it. And so yeah, I think that's pretty funny. And then they're really enjoying Ren as well. So my parents, shout out mom and dad if you happen to see this, but they watch YouTube on their TV, and so it's funny to just think like that they're sitting there watching all my videos, and then every time I talk, we're sorry we haven't been able to watch all your videos yet. We're behind. I'm like, you don't have to watch my videos. I love that y'all watch them, but it's just funny. Yeah, I have amazing parents. I'm very lucky to have the parents I have. I grew up in an amazing household. I love my parents to death. So, Kay, you brought up a good point. Like as far as understanding Ren. So the very first time I heard Ren, which obviously was High Ren, I knew zero about Ren. Like I didn't know anything about him whatsoever. I didn't know what kind of music it was going to be. I didn't know that he was Welsh. I didn't know any of that. And his accent threw me off at first, but I would say maybe 30 to 45 seconds in, maybe a minute into him singing, I had his accent down and I could understand it. It's just, and I think he speaks clearly, but there's certain words, there's certain things he says sometimes where his accent is a bit thick. And I can't quite make out exactly what he's saying, but for the most part, now that I'm familiar with him and I'm used to hearing him, I don't have as much trouble understanding him as I initially did. So we're at an hour and a half. I'll probably go for another like 25 minutes, maybe. But if you're just recently joining and have some questions, feel free to ask away. Anybody new in the room want to ask anything? Okay, I got a question for you. Since you were saying when American reactors find it hard to understand Ren's words, on the flip side of that, is it ever difficult to understand Americans? I've always been curious to know that myself, honestly. and I know that's very regional here in the U.S. If you have that Southern drawl or that New Yorker accent, Northerner accents, cool. That's cool. Where am I traveling to next? Nothing big lined up yet. It all really just depends on how things pan out next year and employment wise. I listen to country, blues, and jazz. I don't listen to a whole lot of jazz. Definitely listen to my fair share of country and blues for sure. Is there a particular artist that you really like, Kay, from country, blues, or jazz? Yeah, Sean, on travels, I realistically don't see myself getting to travel before the end of this year. I'm really hoping to get to do something next year, though. That totally makes sense, Stuart. And actually, Netflix here and Amazon Prime, there's been a lot of British content that I've been consuming more and more and more. Uh, Again, I grew up with a British grandmother, so I've been fairly familiar with the accent. But obviously, just the same as her accent could vary from one person to another. That's like, and then Ren being Welsh, his accent a little thicker. But overall, I feel like I understand Brits pretty well. Same thing with Aussies. Ginger, I'm not opposed to doing it. I need to look it up and see what it is. Little Big Town. Yeah. Ginger. I think I've looked that up before. Uh, Rushnet Productions. I think you may have put that out as a comment before, right? Like, let me see if I can look that up real quick. Ginger Pisces. Oh, is this the? So, Rashna, is this like pretty heavy music, like rock music? Because I think I looked up Ginger before. I'm not opposed to doing it. I'll give it a shot. But I think I checked at that one before. Metalcore. Yeah, I'll do it. I probably won't do a lot of it. It just depends if how it resonates with me. Like I'll do one or two and see if I enjoy it or not. Like even though I listen to some of that music here and there, it's not like my first choice of music per se. There was a time when I listened to that stuff more heavily, like maybe 10, 15 years ago. But now I'm like a little bit more on the chill side of music. So yeah, Stuart, I get it. There are a lot of Americans reacting to British TV and comedy now, so you're getting more used to the accents. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing how much social media, YouTube, and the internet these days has allowed us to connect worldwide more than 10 to 15, 20 years ago. The interaction internationally was so much smaller back then. I feel like now the world is so much smaller because of the way that we're able to communicate like what we're doing right now. Take care, Kay. It's been great getting to chat with you and getting to know you. I appreciate all your questions and appreciate you as a viewer as well. Thank you so much. Arctic Monkeys. I love Arctic Monkeys. I've gotten to see them perform a couple of times at a few of the music festivals. I think it was ACL, if I'm not mistaken, that I was supposed to get to do a meet and greet like interview with them. But the plans ended up changing unexpectedly. So I have a friend that works in production, and so I used to get to go to concerts and music festivals with him quite often. and I had press access. And so I would get backstage access, and we would interview a lot of the musicians and artists and do meet and greets. And so I miss those opportunities. Like I was just at a concert the other day here locally at the Woodlands Pavilion. I went and watched Beck in Phoenix, and the Woodlands Pavilion is a pretty big stage to be looking out from at an audience. And I got to cover an EDM festival years ago, and there was an artist on stage that went by Pretty Lights, and I got to be on stage for that performance. And looking out from that stage into the crowd was a pretty cool feeling. But another, probably the biggest stage I've ever been on was here in Houston when we did, they used to do Free Press Summer Festival. And so they would set up like 5 large stages, very similar to that of ACL or Coachella. And myself and my friend Jillian were backstage. We were technically in a tent we didn't have access to. We were in the artist tent. We weren't in the press tent. And but we weren't doing any photos or videos while we were there, and we were being respectful, so they didn't like give us the boot. And then there was a group of artists sitting around a chair that had Coronas, and Coronas are not twist off beers, and nobody had a bottle cap, and they were kind of like looking around like, what do we do? What do we do? And so my friend Jillian was like, I got you. And he gets his lighter and he just starts popping all their bottles for them. And so then they welcomed us to sit down with them. And it was Bun B, Big Boy of Outkast, and I'm losing my train of thought. There was one other artist I can't think of. But so we just got to hang out and chit chat with them before they went live on stage. And so when it came time to go cover them, we were about to go out around the front side of the stage, which is where press access is allowed. They'll typically let you stay out there for 2 to 4 songs and do your photos and videos, and then you have to go away. But since we were hanging out with them, they brought us on stage with them. And so we actually got to be on stage while they were performing. And that was a massive, massive, massive crowd that day, like bigger than the crowd that I got to experience at the Woodlands Pavilion. And even though they weren't there to see me, you know, it was still like a super cool experience to be on that stage looking out to just thousands upon thousands of people. It was like endless people. So that was a super, super cool experience, and getting to photograph and video the entire performance from on that stage. Find it funny when they say Rowan Atkins can speak and is more than just Mr. Bean. Yeah, like I think Rowan Atkinson, like I don't know that I've seen him in many speaking roles. There was the one movie called Rat Race where he spoke a little bit, and it was pretty funny. That movie in general was pretty funny. But I'm trying to think of any roles that I've seen him in where he's primarily speaking and not kind of having that Mr. Bean-ish kind of a role. So if you have some suggestions of some movies or roles he's played where it is primarily a speaking role, I'd love to check it out. I'm not familiar with any speaking roles from him. You know, I was talking about the concerts and stuff, and it made me think of something else. And one of my friends keeps encouraging me that I should do a video based around this. But if you're familiar with the EDM DJ Avicii, who passed away maybe like I think in 2018, I got a really cool experience with him where I got to meet him too and hang out on stage with him while he was performing. And I was the only person at that performance with press access. And I have all this video of him performing. And then you fast forward to, I think it was 6 or 8 years after I was filming that is when he passed away. And so my friend keeps saying, hey, you need to take that content and like tell a story about it, or, you know, go into that experience. But is that type, would you guys watch stuff like that if I just found old footage from festivals and things that I've covered, not just like from a fan perspective footage, like standing in the audience, but like backstage and meet and greets with artists, and just telling my experience of being on stage with them and things like that? Would any of you have interest in that kind of stuff if I made videos about that? Black Adder. Okay, I'll check that out. Stuart. Rashnet. Okay, cool. Yeah. I have to dig and find it because most of that stuff I did was around 2012 to 2018, give or take, is when I was getting to cover a lot of those acts and festivals and things. Um, I miss those days. I miss having that access. It was a lot of fun getting to have that perspective of the festivals, because now if I go to these festivals and I'm in the audience, I realized I was very spoiled getting to go to these backstages and air conditioned tents and free drinks and all that. And now when I go from a regular standpoint, and you're sandwiched in with thousands of people, and it's hot and it's sweaty, and you're using porta potties instead of air conditioned restrooms, it's a completely different experience. Hey, Helen, welcome. Glad to have you here. You got any questions for me, Helen? I've been chatting a lot with everybody so far that's in the comments. But since you're new here, feel free to ask me anything if you want. What's the best festival I've been to? So that's a toss-up, Sean, on which one's the best festival, because I did ACL maybe 5 or 6 times, and then Free Press here maybe like 4 times. And I think an experience is not just the music or the venue, but who you're with. And so it's hard to kind of put them up against each other. I would say, like, I have some very, very memorable moments of Free Press, like I was just mentioning, and getting to be backstage. But then when Macklemore was here, I had somewhat press access at that one, but not full press. And so when Macklemore was performing, I was actually in the audience, not backstage. And he put on an amazing show. That was when he was kind of like at his prime. And I got some really cool pictures where he, instead of crowd surfing and laying on his back, he walked out on the people's hands. And so people just held him, and he was standing up on the crowd, and he was performing standing there. And I happened to be maybe about 10 or 15 people away from that, and was able to get like this really awesome picture of him just standing on top of everybody's hands and performing. And it was just like a super energetic, amazing performance. But then I've been at performances at ACL, like getting to see the Antwoord for the first time, right? So like I've been following that group, the Antwoord, for quite a while on YouTube, and I had their albums, but I'd yet to see them live. And so then I got to see them live at ACL, and then I got to go backstage and chat with them briefly. And then they performed here again in Houston at Free Press Summerfest. I didn't get to do meet and greet at that one, but when you compare the two experiences, the experience I had in Austin was way different from the one in Houston. Not even because of the meet and greet, it was just the atmosphere of that performance was far better than the one here. I think fewer people here knew who the Antwoord was than when I was in Austin. So if you try to put them up against each other, it's completely different. And then we have, the 94.5 The Buzz, the local radio station, does Buzz Fest annually, and Bud Light Weenie Roast. And so some of those were really, really fun performances as well. And then Lollapalooza, like around 98 or 99 or something like that, was another fun one. So yeah, there's too many to try to pin it down to just a single one. Hey, Carol, welcome back. Helen, thank you for watching all the content that I've been doing to Ren. A lot of the conversation we've been having today on this live has been around Ren and his bandmates and some of those reactions. So I'm glad to have you here. Helen, do you have a favorite Ren song? And then also curious, Helen, how did you find me as a YouTuber, and how long you've been following me or subscribed? I'm trying to look at some of y'all's profile pictures, but they're about like this big, so it's hard to see them. I wish some of the capabilities here on live were a little more extended. Like I was mentioning earlier, I wish I could screen share, because I could jump around and show you guys some stuff live here on the spot. Like I need to get to where I'm using the other platform. What's it called? OBS. But OBS is very much more of PC-based software than a Mac-based software, and I'm on a Mac. But OBS allows me, like, where I could do a live stream like what you're seeing, but I could have multiple screens. So I could have a screen that's like a live feed of another person, perhaps Sean sitting across the table from me here, who's helping to moderate. Or I could be a secondary screen where I can share stuff with you guys. So I need to learn that software, but I need a PC to do that. And right now I'm on Mac. You're funny, Kirill. Rashid, are you familiar with OBS? So like right now I'm just going live off of like a little Logitech webcam and a snowball mic. But what I would like to be able to do is tie in like the what I use for my podcast, because with my podcast, I'm filming on, or not my podcast, but my reactions, either or, it's the same setup. I can have up to 3 guests. So I have 4 cameras. I have 4 Sony a6400s, but I just record directly onto the cameras and then I edit it in Premiere. What I want to find is a piece of hardware that will allow me to tie in all of the cameras to be able to record live. And I think OBS is the answer to that, but I'm still trying to work out the logistics of it, because it's a lot to get your brain around when you're trying to figure it out, because I use a Zoom PodTrack 8 for recording all the audio. So all my mics and the laptop all tie into the PodTrack P8 for the audio, but I'm looking for something to help on the video front. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of finding, is that I'm going to have to probably build out a PC to do all this, and probably get a couple Elgato graphic cards to cover all that. Awesome, Helen. Glad to have you here for the last 2 months. I appreciate your viewership and checking out my content. Yeah, Rashna, I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna have to get a dedicated one specifically for streaming. It's just when I start running the numbers on all the components and everything I need to build it out, the price gets to adding up quite quickly. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. What's a scouser? I see what is this? I don't know what that means. Maybe y'all can explain a scouser to me. I'm sure it's a local slang of some sort. Y'all are speaking a whole nother language to me now. But Liverpool, okay, I get it. Welcome, Rob and Helen. Y'all are 2 that have just joined recently. So thank y'all for joining. If either of y'all have questions, I'm happy to answer. We're rolling up on almost 2 hours. I was considering stopping in 7 minutes, but since a few of you just popped in, I'll keep going a little longer. Y'all gotta give me something to talk about, because I've been talking to them for almost 2 hours now. And I want to make sure I'm talking about things you guys are interested in, or if you have any specific questions for me, that's helpful. Rashnet, where are you watching from? What city, country, state, what have you? Yeah, with the tails, when I initially did the tails, looking back, I did do all of those reactions back to back. But I also realized that like I missed some things. And so sometimes that's one of the things I do enjoy about bringing on guests, is that when I bring on guests, sometimes it allows me to talk about things that I missed on my initial first reaction. Because with stuff like the tails, I'm like, what do I pay attention to? Do I pay attention to the guitar? Do I pay attention to the setting? Am I paying attention to the lyrics? And then from a creator standpoint, I'm always kind of paying attention to the video as well. And then my brain goes off subject of like, how are they accomplishing the filming of this? And what are they doing, and instead of paying attention to sometimes what's more important, which would be the lyrics. So yeah, I didn't get the tails. I got the tails, but like I realized later that there were some of the important details that I missed on the first go round. Cool, Maryland. All right. Yeah, the tells are interesting. Like I didn't know until after I filmed them that it was partially based on a news article, some parts of it. And then I like the twist at the end of the twins, and then the twins being her babies. That's the one thing I missed the first go round, is I didn't realize that. I didn't catch that part, but I pretty much was dead on with everything else. Appreciate it, Rashnet. And Rashnet, I don't know if you heard earlier some of the stuff I was talking about, that some new content I have that's going to be coming out that was inspired by Harry Mack and the guerrilla reactions. I'm sorry, the guerrilla bars, that's inspired me to do what I'm going to be calling guerrilla reactions. So I'm not going to go into re-explaining the whole thing, but that will be coming to my YouTube channel soon. So if you like Harry Mack and you like Ren, you're probably going to like that new series. Oh, that's super cool. So you work with one of Ren's friends? That's awesome, Ellen. Carol, I was thinking the same thing. Hey, Rob, funny that you mentioned Beardy Man and Mac, because the series I have that's going to be going live today in about 1 hour, so noon my time, it starts off with Ren. So I brought back a guest, my friend Craig Bush, that's previously done some Harry Mack reactions. And so we did Ren and Big Push, and then I think Sam Thompson, and then primarily Ren after that. But we closed it out with Harry Mack and Beardy Man. So if you liked the Harry Mack and Beardy Man sessions, some of those reactions are actually coming up today in just a couple hours. Yeah, the long video that Harry Mack and Beardy Man did together, the one that's about 19 or 20 minutes long, of everything Harry Mack's ever done, if you exclude the Gorilla bars and you exclude the Omegle bars and you just strictly do like performances, Beardy Man and Harry Mack, that's my favorite one from Harry. Now, if you go into the Omegle bars and the Gorilla bars, Prom Night's one of my favorite ones. And then in the Omegle bars, oh man, there's a lot of them. But there's one where he's got like 6 guys that are probably like in a dorm room. And one of the words he does is onyx, but they gave him these like really complex word, mitochondria, I think was one of the words. That's one of my other favorite ones from Harry Mack. Rob, okay, cool. That's awesome. You discovered me through Ren. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I never set out to be a YouTuber that creates reaction videos. I fell into that during COVID, but I've really been enjoying it because it's like it's fun to experience the journey and then see y'all's comments back of how y'all are experiencing it too, or in the rare occasion that I'm introducing y'all to something y'all haven't heard before. So one thing I've gotten feedback from you guys is that like I'm going a little bit more on a deeper dive on all the Ren and Big Push and Chinchilla and Sam and Molly and Eden and all of the people that Ren's worked with. My goal is eventually to cover every bit of it, and react to all of it. And so I hope you guys are enjoying that side of it and not just the same couple of songs over and over. And I know that, like I mentioned earlier too, when I bring guests on, There is a lot of repeat songs, but it's because I'm kind of trying to take them down that musical journey a certain way before I start giving them other Ren tracks. Ghost Texas. Patrick, are you watching right now, man? So if you guys see in the comments, Ghost Texas, scariest location you've investigated with GTX, that's my buddy Patrick. He's done some reaction videos with me as well as Morgan. That's my other YouTube channel where we do paranormal investigations. So scariest location, Patrick. I don't know, man. I don't think really any of them have been scary to me, but I think for me so far, the most intriguing one was our experience at the jail, the prison, more specifically the schoolhouse when we were doing that spirit box session and things just kind of went crazy for a while there. That's like, I think like some of our best stuff we've got on camera. So yeah, if you guys aren't familiar, I have that other YouTube channel. It's Ghost Texas, where we do paranormal investigations. So if you're into that kind of stuff, go check it out. If you're not, no big deal. But yeah, man, and we've been talking right now. We're trying to line up another investigation here soon. We just released the tunnels, which is Houston tunnels. So if you're not familiar with the tunnels, so let me explain that. So like where I live in Houston, in downtown Houston, I'm in a mid-rise building. I'm in a 13-story building, and my building sits atop of a tunnel system that connects downtown. So downtown Houston has 6.5, 7 miles worth of tunnels that connect not all of downtown, but a lot of downtown. So there's food courts down there. There's retail, shopping, like not quite like a mall shopping experience, but there's little shops. But all these tunnels that connect downtown. And so our last investigation, we had access to a segment of the tunnels, and we got to do a paranormal investigation down in the tunnels. So yeah, if you like that kind of content, go check that out. Yeah, Patrick, Ghost Texas saying San Jacinto County Jail and Museum was definitely like one of my most memorable ones so far. Carol, Helen, yeah, I know what y'all are saying, Carol and Helen. I don't know if y'all heard a moment ago when I was talking about some of the backstage conversations. I've had the opportunity of meeting some musicians and artists with press pass access. And there's some of those things that I'll never talk about on camera because those stories are not to be shared with everybody. Good point, Rashnet, on the repeats. Yeah, that's kind of like my thing. It's like I feel like you can't introduce somebody to Ren without doing high Ren first. That's just me, but I feel like you kind of need to see that song first to see the level of musician and creator he is before you start introducing him to the other stuff. And then I think it also gives perspective to him as an artist. And that's why I always start with High Ren and I Shot the Sheriff, and then start breaking into the other stuff. Shout out to Sean, by the way. If you guys, I know I don't have a huge community right now, but Sean's been moderating comments for me. So I appreciate your time, Sean. She's off camera, but she is here with us in the chat, and it's been helping me all day today. So thank you. She drove across town, got here at 8 o'clock in the morning to help me out today. And Sean's not ready for anybody to see her YouTube channel just yet, so I'm not going to shout it out. But she's working on a YouTube channel, and down the line when she's ready to have more people there, I will be mentioning it in my community tab of my YouTube channel, so y'all can check out her content as well. She's over here blushing, and I haven't even shared her content, but I will be sharing Sean's content with you guys once she's ready for it. Any other questions from anybody? You guys got anything to ask me or hear me ramble on about? Yeah, I'll keep doing live streams as long as you guys show up for them. My main my main thing that I wanted to accomplish with this one was even figuring out the tools and what I can and cannot do on a live stream and making sure I know how to do it properly, because it's pretty basic, but at the same time, like when I scheduled it out, I scheduled it like a week or two ago. And then this morning I was like, wait, now that it's scheduled, how do I actually access it? How do I actually take it and go live? Because from my YouTube view, I could see it, but from my YouTube studio view, it wasn't there. So I like an hour before I went live, I had to go do a YouTube search on how to go live from my scheduled live. But as it turns out, it was it doesn't show up until you're about 30 minutes out. And then when it's 30 minutes away from the scheduled time, then I could actually access it and go live. Good question, Sean. I'm wondering what that means too. Plastic scouser. I don't know what that means. That must be local lingo there. Patrick, Garrett here. You look cool with shaved head. So Patrick is like my friend that I do Ghost Texas with, and he's saying Garrett, his son, is watching me live. So Garrett, is this your first time seeing me with my hair shaved off? It's been that way for a few months now. That's funny. Oh wait, so Patrick, are you and Garrett both watching? Is Garrett watching from yours and you're watching from Ghost Texas, or did y'all switch? I just noticed that. It's a nickname that people from Liverpool call people like me who are literally 5 minutes from the city center, but not actually within Liverpool postcode. Okay, I got you. Yeah, hit the like button. Thanks, Carol. Houston's like, it's funny because Houston is a super huge city and it's spread out and it's made up of a lot of smaller surrounding cities as well. So where I'm at is in the heart of Houston. Like I'm in downtown, but you could live in Cypress, Texas, Sugar Land, Texas, Missouri City, Katy, Texas, Humble, Kingwood, the Woodlands, Spring. All of these places are their own place, but technically they're also part of Houston. But what's funny is if you're traveling somewhere, you're on an airplane and you're with a bunch of strangers and you ask any of those people where they're from, they're going to say Houston, because people know Houston, but they're not going to know all those other little places I just named off. They're not, unless they're from Texas or they're from the Houston area, they're not going to know any of those places. But technically they also do make up Houston. So I get what you guys are talking about now. Yeah, and I didn't grow up in the city like where I'm at now. I've only been living here for a little over 2 years. I grew up in an area of Houston what's now dubbed near Northwest, as did Sean, right? So you kind of grew up not far from me. I would used to refer to that as Northwest Houston, but now if you say Northwest Houston, people assume Cypress, which is much further out. So I grew up very close to the city, just barely on the outskirts of like the main loop of the city. So nowadays it wouldn't technically be considered a suburb, but when I grew up there, it would have been a suburb of Houston. Patrick, I'm glad you and Garrett are watching, man. I appreciate it. Y'all are the only people watching so far that I know outside of YouTube. Yeah, Heights is inside the loop. So my grandmother and one of my uncles lived in the Heights for like 30 years or something, and so I used to go there quite often, and super familiar with the Heights too. That's a good reference there, Carol. That's hilarious. Philly. I've never been to Philadelphia. Actually, like when it comes to going to anywhere northern in the U.S., I've flown to New York, but I've never been to anything in between here in New York. I've been to Tennessee, but that's it. Most of my travel in the U.S. has been East Coast to West Coast. Like I've been to every lower state from Texas to Florida and Texas to California, but I've never been anywhere north with the exception of New York. And that was only in 2018 that I went to New York. So, well, I was going to say fairly recent, but was it 5 years ago now? But yeah. What are the go-to spots in Philly, Carol? If I was to go visit, aside from seeing the Rocky Monument, where else would I go? They have a Rocky Monument, right? Don't they have an actual Rocky statue out there? Or is that just a made up for TV thing? Looks like we might possibly have some new people in the room. If we do, feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. Yeah, it's part of my goal to see every state as well, Helen. Like I think to date, I'm at about 13 or 15 states that I've been to in the U.S. Um, so that brings up a good topic actually, and how I ended up here in downtown. So I sold the house I lived in January of 2020, and I moved in with one of my friends for what was going to be about a 9 month to a 12-month living with my friend, because I bought an RV, a 40-foot RV and a truck, and I was going to travel full time and work remotely and create content. And that was the direction I was going to go with my YouTube channel. I was going to be a travel content creator. But then that was right before COVID. So in February of 2020 is when the whole world shut down, and that halted my plans to travel. And then you fast forward a few more months to June of that year, and the company I was working for and I know some of you guys are just joined a little while ago, but earlier I talked about a company I worked for called Comedy Driving, was a very consumer driven business. And when COVID hit, it really affected them a lot, which in turn, the majority of the staff got laid off, myself included. So 6 months into what was planned to be me traveling full time, everything changed and got turned upside down because of COVID. So you fast forward a couple more months, and that's when I accepted a position with a company that was no longer gave me the opportunity to work remote. So I ended up having to sell my RV and truck, and that's how I ended up moving downtown in Houston. So I owned my RV for, I think, 12 months exactly. Like I think exactly a year. And never once got to take it out, and never once got to take it on a single trip or go anywhere in my RV. And but that's also what led me to start doing reaction videos with COVID. So that's how I ended up where I am right now. But yeah, my plan was to visit all 50 states. I wanted to use my RV and visit all 50 states in the U.S. I also wanted to go into Canada, and I also wanted to check out, some Central America and South America. But things change, so you just got to kind of roll with it. And hopefully eventually I'll still get to see all 50 states. Don't go see the Rocky statue. Is it overhyped, Carol? Yeah, Rashnet. So you were driving through all of them, but you didn't get to experience them because you were working, right? That's kind of like how I feel. Like I've been to Hawaii, but I don't count it as a visit because I was there for a layover on my way to the Philippines. I never got to leave the airport, So although I've touched ground in Hawaii, I've never seen Hawaii other than from an airport. Cool. Thank you so much, Carol. I'm going to check some of that stuff out. Helen, if you ever make it to the States and you're in Houston for some reason, happy to be your tour guide, show you around town. You can come shoot some reaction videos with me and see my setup in person. I'm hoping that one day if I get to go visit you guys in the UK to potentially meet some of y'all in person, maybe I can work that out sometime next year. Maybe that can be one of my trips, is to make my way out to the UK and perhaps meet some of you guys out for drinks or something. No, you're not offending anybody, Helen. So yeah, so like if you want to see some of that stuff, a great place to experience that is probably going to be like Arizona and New Mexico. I've seen a little bit of that stuff in person, but a lot of that was on my list for when I was going to be traveling full time. So it's definitely worth checking out. Just be prepared for like very, very high temperatures. Those are a lot of kind of like desert land space. And so like right now in Houston, we've been averaging temperatures of like 104, 105 degrees. And I want to say over in New Mexico and Arizona, it's probably like even higher. It's probably like 110, 112 or something like that. And obviously that'll change depending on what time of year you visit. But in general, those two states in particular are usually pretty warm climates. Yeah, Rob, I talked quite a bit earlier about getting to visit the Philippines. It's one of my most memorable trips I ever got to make. I was the best man in a wedding for one of my closest friends and spent about 7 or 8 days in the Philippines. Um, Flew into Manila, spent a few days in Manila, and then after the wedding, we went from Manila to the islands. I don't remember what island it was that we flew to, but we flew to a smaller island, and then from that island, we spent quite a bit of time in a like a metro style bus until we got around to a ferry, and then we took a ferry across to another island, and that other island was Boracay. So we spent a few days in Boracay, and then from Boracay we got to do some island hopping. It was really amazing experience. That's amazing if you're getting to go there twice a year. I only got to go the one time, and it was probably 12 or 13 years ago at this point, and it's somewhere I want to get to visit again. I could easily see myself going back to the Philippines over and over and over again because there's so many beautiful areas to see. Awesome on your getting married on October 10th, man. That's amazing. I hope you have a great experience. Are you getting married there in the Philippines, or are you getting married elsewhere? Yeah, Sean, the music scene in the Philippines was fun. One of my favorite things to do was when we were staying in the islands, when we were on Boracay, at nighttime on the beach, they have it all set up with like bars and food vendors along the actual beach. And there is an area where they had like acoustic guitar and then one of those like square box drums that you sit on and can drum on it. And they would just play music and take requests. And that was a lot of fun getting to do that. Uh, Yeah, Helen, I feel you. It's pretty grim here for me as well. I've mentioned it in a couple of my videos just recently, but I know that you guys obviously don't get to see all my content. I got laid off from my job on May 18th and have been unemployed since and trying to find employment again. So um, the state of things here in the U.S. aren't that great right now. Tons of layoffs. Economy is terrible. Inflation is through the roof. Cost of gas is 2 or 3 times as much as it used to be. Food and groceries are through the roof. Like literally everything's expensive. Wages are down, and my biggest obstacle right now is just even figuring out how I'm going to pay my bills each month. So it's been rough. Hence why I'm saying likelihood of travel this year is pretty slim. If things can turn around for me, then maybe I can consider some traveling next year. But I'm so upside down right now. I don't know how far into the future I'll have to wait before I can start enjoying life again beyond just getting by. Rob, that's amazing. Bali's on my list for sure, man. Like I definitely want to check out Bali sometime. I've done a handful of reaction videos to Bali. Um, Looks like a beautiful place to visit. So I'm envious that you get to go there, and that's going to be an amazing honeymoon for you. Me too, Helen. I'm hoping for the lotto. I got my tickets. I think here locally it's like 350 million right now. Uh, if I win, Helen, I'll fly you here to the States and we'll travel together. Rashnet, I appreciate it, man. Like my YouTube is doing great. Like it's doing better than it ever has. The biggest obstacle for me with YouTube is since a lot of my content right now is primarily based around reaction videos. Um, I'm only getting about maybe 20 or 30% of the videos that I have live on my channel that I can monetize. Um, Most of the other ones, the monetization is claimed by the original artist, or they've blocked me from being able to collect the monetization. Um, so while I'm able to continue growing my audience and my community, um, from a monetization standpoint, I'm not really making much money. I think last month was my biggest month, and I made $225 off of YouTube. And when you consider I put out 121 videos last month and I made $200, that's not really much of anything. Honestly, my groceries cost me $200. So while it's extra money, I'm definitely not a YouTuber that's like getting rich off of YouTube right now. Um, I'm hoping that things will change over time. I have plans to kind of start diversifying my content, and I'm hoping that you guys as an audience like will enjoy some of the other content I'm planning to start putting out. Uh, but I'm also working on like my merch store and things like that. So we'll see how things pan out. If I could do YouTube full time, that is my end goal. Uh, but I'm still definitely on the climb right now. I'm not to the point where it's profitable for me by any means. Oh, sorry to hear about that, Helen. That's rough. Cross your fingers. Um, so self-employed van drivers. That's funny that you mentioned that. I actually was just watching some videos on some services here in the U.S. that I might actually look into for transporting medical devices or medical services. It's supposed to pay quite well, but I haven't really done enough homework on it yet to see if it's something feasible or not. My biggest obstacle in trying to continue to pursue YouTube is while I've been out of work right now, that's what's allowed me to do 120 videos a month and grow my audience. While I was working, I was lucky if I could put out like one or two videos a week. And so it's that conundrum of like, I have to pay my bills, so I need a job, but I need more time on my hands in order to grow my YouTube, which is what my long-term goal is. So hopefully it'll begin to kind of balance itself out and I'll be able to do YouTube full time. But in the meantime, I still have to find a regular employment or some sort of flexible employment that allows me to make some money. Bear with me one moment, guys. I got to check something real fast. Okay. I have an appointment at 1 o'clock and they were just trying to call me and it's 11:30 and I was like, wait a minute, I have my time wrong, but no, they're not supposed to be here for another hour and a half. So my apologies. Um, Hey Rash, I really appreciate that, Rash. That like I'm glad that like my channel stands out from some of the other reaction channels. Um, yeah, like some of the content I want to do is kind of like lifestyle content, I guess you could say. I don't really know what you call it. It's not necessarily vlog style, but we have like a huge food scene here in Houston, and I think it's very underrated, the food scene we have here, and just like we have more places to eat in Houston than anywhere else I've ever been to. And so I'm going to start creating some content based around that, visiting local places and kind of doing like highlight videos of these different food places. As well as, you know, like I said, I live in downtown, so I want to start highlighting a lot of cool travel spots that you can check out in and around Houston, downtown Houston. So for people who are outsiders looking in, maybe potentially considering visiting Houston, or maybe you're just coming here for some sort of a work week for some reason, you'll have things that you can check out and do. I know Houston's not necessarily usually a destination spot for people, and I could see that, but there's actually so much to do in this city that people don't realize. Not to mention how many sporting venues we have and music venues as well. So like within walking distance from where I live, I can go to 3 out of our 4 sports arenas. And then when it comes to music venues, there's probably like 20 of them within walking distance of me. And when I say music venues, I'm not talking about just like a little pub or a bar. I'm talking about like actual music venues. And we got tons of parks and art, and we have one of the biggest museum districts in the country. So there's a lot to do here. So I'm going to start trying to create some content based around that to kind of balance out my reaction content, because like I was saying, the reaction content just doesn't really allow me the ability to make money. Sean's absolutely correct. Very multicultural. They say that actually there's a statistic that there are more languages spoken in Houston than anywhere else other in the world, that it outpaces New York and even China. There's more languages spoken here in Houston than anywhere else in the world. We're in a very, very, very diverse culture here in Houston. Like when it comes to diversity of people, I feel like I personally have like a very well-rounded, diverse group of friends. Like if I was to bring 30 to 50 of my closest friends over, there's a good chance that easily like 60 or 70% of those people would all have originated from different countries. So yeah, it's a melting pot of cultures, and with that comes a melting pot of music and food and culture overall. So it's a fun thing to experience with living here. And since we are growing at such a rapid pace, we have one of the biggest medical districts in the country, and then oil and gas obviously being big here. So there's constantly people coming here, not to mention NASA and so much other stuff that brings people here to relocate. And even though things are expensive right now, the cost of living here is still generally lower than it is in a lot of other places in the country. So yeah, it's fun to have the diversity here that we have. Rashna, I'm with you on that. A lot of the content, it's hilarious. Like some of the content I consume versus the content that I put out. Like one of my friends was here the other day, and he wants to get into YouTube. He's like, well, what kind of content do people watch? I was like, that's too broad of a question, man. I was like, what do you like to do? I was like, he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, here, let's sit down. And I showed him my feed on my YouTube channel, the type of content that I consume on YouTube. And the content I consume is so diverse. Like I watch Demolition Ranch, Jigging with Jordan, YBS Youngblood, Cartier family, Leave Everything in Wonder, my Italian travelers. I love those guys. Trent and Allie. So these range from like Sam the Cooking Guy. So like cooking to travel to underwater exploration, other reactors. Like my content of what I consume is super vast. So like when somebody comes to me and they want to get into YouTube, I'm like, man, you got to do a little bit of homework first and determine what things you're actually interested in, because you need to create content around your own interest. You can't just create content that you think people will want to consume. They'll come naturally if you're creating content that you are really passionate about, right? And so like when I'm doing reactions, and sometimes people will ask me to react to certain things, I'll generally give it a shot. But if I don't feel like a connection with that content, I'm probably not going to react to it over and over again, because I don't feel like authentic reacting to it. I don't want to react to it for the sake of doing it or working the algorithm. I want to react to stuff I actually enjoy. I think it comes across more authentic to my viewers. Yeah, Helen, Houston, like I think when people think Texas, they probably think Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin are probably the 4 primary ones. You might hear some El Paso and Amarillo occasionally, but Houston is definitely one of the most common ones you'll hear. Carol, which airport did you fly in? Do you have any? Do you remember it all? Did you fly into Hobby or Bush? Just curious, because Bush is probably like 5 times the size of Hobby, maybe even 10 times the size of Hobby. That's funny. Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, that's very, very true. What's funny for me too is when I went to New York, they have a street called Houston, but they call it Houston. They're like Houston Street, and it's just kind of like in California where they have Rodeo Drive. And the first time I saw it spelled out, I was like, "Oh, that's Rodeo." It's just like Rodeo Drive, but it's just the way things are pronounced. Oh, and Sean just actually, she mentioned the world's biggest rodeo. Yeah, our rodeo here is massive. It's 21 days, if I'm not mistaken. It starts with a rodeo cook-off. So they do like a cook-off competition, and that's when they open the festival grounds. And not festival, what do you call it? More of like a carnival grounds. And that lasts 2 or 3 days, I think, right? Like a Friday and Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then from there, it goes into the actual rodeo. And so the rodeo here in Houston, each night is finished off with a live music act. And it used to predominantly be only country music, but it's gotten a lot more diverse now. So it's music of pretty much every genre. But the rodeo portion of it is about 2 hours. And then you have the carnival grounds that you can experience. And then you have all the additional stuff that you can experience, where you can go walk through and see all the livestock, and you can pet the animals. And then there's the shopping, and then the roller coasters. And it's just a huge, huge, huge experience. So if you're into that kind of stuff and you want to see like a full blown rodeo, I would suggest checking out the Houston Rodeo. It's definitely something to experience. It's in March, generally, I think the second week of March through almost the end of the month. Thank you, Rash. I'm just reading through the comments. Yeah, like diverse wise, like my own household, my own family is pretty diverse. I mentioned some of this earlier, but like my mom, her mom is from Corby, England, but my grandmother was actually half British and half Irish. And then my mom's father was about 2 generations in, or 3 generations here in Texas. And then on my dad's side, his mother was Cuban, and my dad was born in Havana, Cuba. But his dad was from Istanbul, Turkey. So like I'm kind of a mutt. And then my group of friends as well is very, very diverse group of friends. And I've always had a very diverse group of friends pretty much my whole life. So I think it's important to have a diverse outlook on life, to be well-rounded and not just like stuck in a funnel. Carol, so yeah, Bush. So if you flew in Bush, if you had to be stuck in an airport for a little while, Bush would be the one to be stuck in. It's a huge airport, lots of great places to eat. I've been stuck in some not so great airports before, so if I had to choose an airport to be stuck in, it would probably be Bush. Yeah, Helen, I see what you're talking about. The U.S. being big, it is huge, but like everything's relative to if you look at the U.S., and you could kind of compare the UK to like a state here, right? So just the way that you guys have the opportunity to like hop on a train and go to another country, we could do the same thing here, but it wouldn't be another country, it'd just be another state. So we're still within the US, but when you regionally, like from one state to another, life could be completely different. And the way things are completely different, just as, you know, New Yorkers and Californians and Floridians and Texans, all very different groups of people. And we all have a lot of common traits, obviously, but the cultural experience is going to be very different regionally. So there's a lot of different things to experience from one state to another. Um, I've traveled a decent amount, but I still don't feel like I've traveled enough. And which is why I want to continue to travel, even just within the U.S. as well as abroad. Oh, somebody retracted a message. uh, Marin, my friend Sean is here helping me to moderate, and she said you had initially asked about Jake Long, but I don't think I know who that is, so I'll have to check that out. Uh, Sorry, I'm just reading through the comments, guys. Yeah, like my thing when it comes to the video series and the things that I want to do, unfortunately, a lot of the ideas I have and a lot of the things that I would love to bring to my YouTube channel entail cost, right? And so I always have to try to figure out a way to be able to pay for the things that I want to do, and then realize that quite often I'm not going to even break even. I'm going to be far upside down. So that's why I have to have a shift in my content. Like I want to continue doing reaction videos, and I'll always do them, but I need reaction videos to realistically make up maybe like 25% of my channel, and 75% of my channel needs to be other content, so that I can start to actually make money from my content, which will allow me to make better content and have better experiences and put better content out for you guys. But right now, I'm far upside down when you look at the expense of all the different equipment I've purchased over the years, and the time I commit to YouTube versus what I get out of it. It's very upside down, but I have faith that it'll get better over time. Oh, Carol, you noticed the yo back there? So that's actually a funny story. My close friend Tan, well, I don't want to say funny, but funny coincidence. When I started doing yo at the beginning of the videos, like I knew I wanted to say something at the beginning of my videos, but I didn't know what I should say. And one day I just said yo, and people commented about it, and I was like, oh, I guess that'll be what I say running, moving forward. So my friend Tan, when I said I was living with one of my friends for about a year during COVID, it was my buddy Tan, and unfortunately during that time his father passed away. But in helping him to clean out some of the things at his dad's house, I found the yo letters, and it's actually, there's a T as well, so it for toy. And he's like, hey, you should take those letters, you could use them, you could make yo out of it. And I was like, oh yeah, I could, huh? And so I just about a week ago gave the T to one of our friends to see if he can turn it into an exclamation point for me. But those letters, you can tell they're super old. They used to have neon light in them. So I pulled all the neon light out, and I've actually put in smaller lights in them. The only reason they're not on right now is because the batteries are dead. But I'm hoping my friend can take that T and convert it into an exclamation point for me. But yeah, so I didn't go out and buy that. It just kind of it found me, and it fits perfect on that shelf back there. Yo, Adrian. Yeah, from Rocky. Um, yeah, what's funny is like I don't think in regular conversation or things in general that I even usually say yo. I don't like it. Just like it just came out of my mouth one day and then it stuck. We used to in the '90s. The Houston Chronicles, our main newspaper here, and when they were trying to be like hip, they had a section of the newspaper called Yo that would come out on Sundays, and they were trying to like market to teenagers. I think was their primary objective. Maybe that's why it's kind of stuck with me. I don't know, but yeah, it's corny. I know my intro is corny, but it also brings a smile to my face when I see the comments and people are like, "Yo!" It always makes me laugh when I see those comments. Oi, yeah, in the UK. That's another thing. It's funny how things slowly kind of all kind of serendipity. You know, everything comes together at the same or synchronicity, not serendipity, synchronicity. Um, as my audience has begun to grow through Ren, and I have a really big UK audience, I was also simultaneously starting to already consume a lot of Netflix content that was UK based, um, and getting familiar with the lingo. And then there's some YouTubers that I also watch from UK, and so it's like from three different ways I'm getting to learn a little bit of the lingo. Oh, that's another YouTuber channel I forgot to mention earlier. I really enjoy Jolly and Korean Englishmen. Josh and Ollie are hilarious. I love the content they create. And so, yeah, it's another channel I check out all the time. Yeah. So earlier, Carol, I was mentioning like it would be, something that's on my wish list is eventually one day to maybe get to interview Ren. But another thing on my wish list is to potentially try to collaborate on something with Jolly one day. I know that my channel is far smaller than theirs is right now, but they have come through Houston a couple of times. And given that a lot of their content is very food driven, I want to reach out to them because of the Korean Englishman channel. And I don't think they realize, or they may not be aware, is that there is a big Korean food scene here in Houston. And I think they could easily create a couple weeks worth of content here just on Korean food. So if anybody has any connections to Josh and Ollie, hook me up, man. I think they could do something for both of their channels, or just even Jolly. So yeah, that's something else I want to try to do over time, is find YouTubers that I can collaborate with. My biggest obstacle with that is like, even though Houston's like a huge city, um, I've yet to come across any other YouTubers in Houston, right? Like I've tried finding them, but I'm just not really coming across any. And I'm hoping that even if I can find some in Texas or anybody who's willing to travel, or even if I have to travel, I want to try to start collaborating with other YouTubers. But if a channel is too big, like Josh and Ollie and Korean Englishman, I feel like it's too much of an ask to try to collaborate with them until I grow my audience more. So I need to try to align myself with people that have a channel similar size to mine. But I'm just not there yet. Yeah, Stuart, I think that's a great idea as well. There's a couple of YouTube channels, and I can't recall the name of them, where it's I can't think of her name, but she'll have like somebody from England, somebody from Australia, New Zealand, and US, and they'll kind of go through different pictures, and then they'll say what that picture, whatever the photograph is, whatever they call it in their country, for comparison's sake, to see how many people have the same names for things. Just like I believe there, when you're in a grocery store, the cart, y'all push it, y'all call it a trolley, if I'm not mistaken. And here we call it a cart or a grocery cart. So like little things like that. So I think I could easily create some fun content like that, but I would need to find people from other countries that would be interested in doing that type of content or participating in that kind of content with me, and that I can rely on a fairly regular basis to schedule that kind of content out. You just reminded me I need it. Like I haven't. Man. All right, guys. So it is 11:46 my time. So 14 minutes at noon. I'm probably going to wrap this up just because I have a 1 o'clock appointment for that podcast that I might start producing for someone else, and I need a little break for myself. But I'm really enjoying getting to chat with you guys. I really appreciate y'all taking the time to come spend some time with me here on live. But yeah, if you guys got some questions, keep asking. Rosh, that 22K is a great accomplishment. Most don't reach half that. I started a Discord community. Streamers not even. Yeah, what's crazy about my 22K is like I've gotten probably 3,500 or so in the last 60 days subscribers, where it took me a year to get 3,500 at one point, right? So I'm very thankful for each and every one of you guys as viewers. Like I know a lot of times people look at the numbers and they forget that on the other side of those numbers are actual people, and I don't look at it that way. I know like as much as I'm excited to reach a goal of 22,000 subscribers, 25,000 subscribers, I still realize and know that that's like it's not just subscribers, that's 25,000 people. And when you think about it as people instead of just numbers, it's amazing like to think that I'm even reaching 22,000 people right now. Matter of fact, I think I'm at 22,200 and something. Let me see. 22,273. So every time I hit 100 more, I do a little victory dance here off camera for myself. So when I get another 27 and I hit 22,300, I'll be doing my little victory dance. But I'm hoping that I could hit 25,000 by the end of the year, maybe more. But we'll see how things pan out. It's a trolley in real life, but a cart if shopping online. That's funny. Yeah, because it's a shopping cart online. Carol, you got your deliveries while we were streaming. That's awesome. I refer to glasses as well. And then if there's sunglasses, then I'll say sunglasses. I don't typically say eyeglasses here. But I'm sure there's some people that might refer that way. I don't know. Yeah, and I'm always open to suggestions too. So if there's types of content that I'm currently not creating that you guys enjoy or find interesting and you think I should take a stab at it, let me know, man. Because while I've got a ton of ideas rolling around in my head of things that I think my audience might like, it's always great to hear from you guys of what kind of content you enjoy to watch as well. It helps me to curate it better and make sure that I'm doing something that pleases both me and you guys. I actually have a question for you guys. So I mentioned my friend Tan a couple of times, and then I have another friend, Monica. Actually, Monica just was on last week. Y'all saw Monica if you watched those reactions. She picked up a book that's 101 Things to Do in Houston. And so the three of us together are trying to start doing everything in that book. And it's just things in and around Houston. Some of them we may have experienced before, some of them maybe not. But I told them, I was like, hey, if we're going to do that, we should do this other thing simultaneously. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen this. It's called Wreck This Journal. And it's just a bunch of like fun and silly stuff that you can do with this journal. So we're simultaneously doing Wreck This Journal along with the 101 Things to Do in Houston. But I thought about creating a series, because I have two of these books. I have another one where y'all can help me find creative ways to wreck the journal, maybe, or maybe y'all give suggestions, or maybe I do things in the journal and make videos out of it. I don't know yet, because some of the things in the journal aren't that exciting. But if I could find fun and unique ways to wreck the journal based on it's what you're supposed to do, but make it more eventful, I don't know if that would interest you guys or not. Helen, anything Ren, please. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing the Ren content. What I was mentioning earlier, though, is I'm starting to get close to completing all of his content, and a lot of his bandmates' content. So what I don't want to happen is I run out of Ren content to react to, and then I lose my audience attention. So I'm trying to find that balance of continuing to do Ren content as it becomes available. Because I think realistically in the next like month and a half, I'll have completed it all. So I want to keep doing Ren related stuff, but I also want to keep doing content that you guys will enjoy. I appreciate you pointing out the production, Rash. And that, like, sometimes when I kind of chat with my friends about what I'm trying to do and some of the plans I have some friends that are like, just put something out and see if it works. And I'm like, no, because I don't want to have something kind of half-assed done and then it affects the outcome. I'd rather go all in on something and it be a dud. But then if it's successful, then it's done in good quality, right? Like, I don't like to put out poor quality stuff. So sometimes I might overthink things, but I want my end result to be worth the time I've put into it. It's kind of like the cart that I was talking about earlier, and I don't know if you were on, Rosh, for that, but I built out a cart that's a mobile broadcasting. So basically, like everything I have here for my podcast and reaction videos, I have a version of that now on wheels that I can start taking around and engaging with people and doing reactions on the spot. But even the build out of that cart, it was like super precise. Like, I thought down to every last little tiny piece of equipment and how I built the entire thing out, because I wanted it to be perfect. I even bought giant wheels because I thought ahead of, well, if I got all this equipment on this cart and I'm rolling around on streets and it's bumpy, I don't want the cart to fall over and all my equipment crashes to the ground. So like I overthink everything, but I think with good intentions. Yeah, Sean. Yeah, that was right. So like Carol mentioning that you haven't seen any other reactor doing it. I was super hesitant to mention it at all until I launched it. But now that I know I'm only about a week or two out from being able to do it, I don't mind talking about it. But yeah, my cart, I bought most of the equipment back when I was still employed, but there were still some parts of it that I was waiting to all come together before I could take it live. Maybe after I do this live today, I'll put some pictures up in the community tab on my YouTube so you guys can kind of get a glimpse of what it looks like. But it literally is a replica of what I'm sitting at right now at this table, all condensed into like a 2 foot by 3 foot cart, double stack cart, like a utility cart, like you might see a custodian use or something like that to put all their mops and cleaning stuff on. It's one of those carts that I fully built out as a mobile podcast or mobile recording studio. The only thing that's going to be different on that is right now, if I have 4 people, I have 4 cameras. On that, I'll have only 2 cameras, one pointing one direction, one pointing the other, and there would be 2 people per camera. Just because logistically, it's just too many cameras to try to put on there. And then I also have to consider how I power everything. So that's another thing I'm working on right now. I'm hoping that Jackery will come through for me. I already have Jackery power sources, but I'm hoping that they'll be an official sponsor of that series. So I'm reaching out to them as well to power that. So that's some of the other things I'm kind of waiting on to try to figure out before I go live with it. Yeah, I think so. One of the things I talked about earlier, for those of you all that are joining now, and the reason I made the cart is because I know that you guys really love when I bring on guests. And so in trying to find ways to have guests on a more regular basis than having to always schedule out friends and family or whoever I can get to come over, I thought, well, I'll just roll out to the streets and see who's standing around and wants to sit down and do a video with me. And since I'm in the middle of downtown and there's different people passing by all the time, I think it will be fairly successful. But I know there's gonna be some challenges in the beginning of figuring everything out. But once I have it down to like a cookie cutter process, I know I'll be able to do well. My other obstacle that worries me some is just walking around by myself with that much of equipment on a cart. Houston's a pretty safe city, but at the same time, you know, I'm walking around with cameras and mics and laptop and a bunch of expensive equipment. So that's my only other concern. But I think I'll be fine as long as I'm doing things in daylight hours. I shouldn't have any issues. Yeah, Rashna, that's exactly what I want to do. So right now I have two of the Jackery 300s. I have two of them that would basically power it. But I'm reaching out to them to see if they'll be on board. What I want from them is one of their 1000 or 1500 series generators. And then if they'll do the solar panel as well, what I want to take with what I already have of the cart is I would make a roof over the cart using the solar panel, so that it would shade my equipment while simultaneously charging the Jackeries. So we'll see how that all pans out. But even if they don't sponsor, probably over time I will invest in the additional stuff. But right now I've only been able to invest in the two battery sources, the two 300s. But it would be cool to have the solar panel as a roof as well as charging up the Jackery simultaneously. Yeah, Carol, that's what I want to do as a public park. So 5 or 6 blocks from me, I live from Discovery Green. It's Discovery Green, which is like a really huge park here in Houston. And so that's my goal, is I would be able to just walk right over there and set up at the park. And that park is across the street from the George R. Brown Convention Center. And it's also sandwiched between Toyota Center, which is our basketball stadium, the BBVA soccer stadium, and Minute Maid Park, which is our stadium for the Astros baseball. And then it's also encased between Hilton Americas and Marriott Marquis. So all of that stuff is like, the park itself is probably about one city block, Discovery Green, but all of that stuff is immediately butted up against it or right nearby. So that's kind of like where I'm hoping to do a lot of the content. But there's a handful of other parks like that throughout downtown as well. Renogy, I'll check that one out too, Rashna. Like if I can't get Jackery to do it, I'm going to try some other companies as well. But I also don't want to prolong the series. So even if I have to do my first few on my own without a sponsor, I will. But my goal is to see if I can get one of those types of companies to sponsor me. Well, guys, it's getting close to noon here, about 1 minute away. So I'm probably going to wrap it here. I really want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today. I appreciate your time. I know time is the most valuable asset any of us have these days. So thanks for taking the time from your day to spend it with me. Thank you, Sean, for helping to moderate for me as well. But yeah, it's been awesome. So if you guys enjoy these and you enjoy this format, you know, maybe I'll start doing these a couple of times a month and continue to grow it from there. And I appreciate, like I said, each and every one of you as a subscriber, as a viewer, as a person. And I appreciate that y'all take the time to check out my content and show me some support. Awesome. Well, I'll see you guys in the next one. I appreciate it. Appreciate you all. Y'all take care. Oh yeah, and I just exactly right now there's a binge session that just started on my channel, so this is the perfect time to end this. So if y'all want to keep watching me, go to my channel, and there's a binge session that's going to run for about an hour, hour and a half of 6 or 8 videos right now that's starting. I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a great day.